to get to. Nate Taylor from The Athletic has a list of his biggest burning questions remaining before training camp. That's coming up. We'll, of course, as we do every Thursday, we'll talk to Rick Peterson of TopSports.news. Finally back on a regular schedule with Pistol. Finally. It's been too long.
And we've got lots to talk about today. As
the banquet!
Shawnee County Sports Awards were handed out last night. Congratulations to all the winners.
We'll talk about all of them with Rick Peterson coming up in the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour today. We've got What Is Wrong With You, our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Oh, and by the way, a stunner at the NBA draft. Johnny Furphy does not go in the first round. I could not believe it.
Furphy, like the three best players left on the draft board, the best available at the end of the night, Johnny Furphy, Kyle Filipowski, and Tyler Kolek.
All of whom are at the very least better than an international player who averaged 2.9 points per game off the bench in the NBL of Australia.
All of them are something else, too.
That's true, too.
It's like Kanye West said, racism is still alive. They just be concealing it.
It's just outrageous that he did not get picked. Furphy will go today. I figured Kevin McCullough would go today. Maybe not. Maybe he's going to go first in the round. Who's to say? It was a wild round. We'll break that all down today on 580 Sports Talk. We want you to be involved in the show. You can find us on Twitter at 580 Sports Talk. You can also find the video stream there. You can find all of our online content, including our podcast at our website, 580wibw.com. And don't forget to go check out our YouTube, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Subscribe, leave a comment while you're there. And we would also love to hear from you on the Top City Metal Supply text line. 785-272-9429 is that text line number. Before we get to the Royals, we need to address a YouTube comment here and address a moment from the show yesterday. This is from Joe on YouTube. It says, Dan, I heard you spitting that Hawk Tua fire yesterday on my way home. You about caused a wreck on K10. Chef's kiss. I'm not over it.
I'm glad I don't have a wreck on my conscience. I'll tell you that much. But I am as proud of that joke as I am of maybe any joke I've ever told, any bit I've ever done on this show. I set it up beautifully. I got through it with a straight face. I really made you mad. I made Spencer laugh really hard. I got the reaction I was looking for and expected both here and across the glass. And it sounds like I got a good reaction from those listening as well.
Trenton has no clue what we're talking about.
No. We'll have to play this for you during a commercial break. It was
really good.
It was impressive.
Some of my best work, Trent. You'll know what I mean when we get there.
The Kansas City Royals put in their best work for, one inning yesterday, and it helped them knock off the Miami Marlins 5-1, helped them win that series over the Marlins as well. But now things get really real because they've got the Cleveland Guardians, the first place Cleveland Guardians coming to town. They've got a 10-game lead in the division. Is it still 10 after last night?
It is 9.
Okay.
Yeah, 9 over Kansas City, 8 over Minnesota.
They got
beat last night. Yeah, they lost to Baltimore last night.
They are one of 3 teams in the American League with 50 wins, along with Baltimore, who got their 50th last night, and along with the Yankees. The Royals have winnable games between now and the rest of the All-Star break, and even for a few weeks beyond the All-Star break. We've been talking about that for a while now. Winnable games. The most important game to win, though, is these games. And you want to win all of them. Obviously, they all count the same. But getting games against your division, when you are directly influencing how far ahead or how far behind you are in the AL Central, absolutely massive. These next 4 games, and thankfully both Lugo and Reagans will have a chance to go in the rotation in this series on the back end. That's very positive. Really cannot put into, cannot grasp how big of a deal for end of June, start of July. In fact, it'll all be self-contained in June. This series is. You've got to win at least 2. You cannot fall further behind, in my opinion, to Cleveland this year. You've got to get at least a pair here.
Yeah, you can't lose ground. You have to at least tread water in this series because there's still a lot of baseball left after this. And we didn't get to see the full 3-game series the first time around between these 2 teams, but certainly didn't look like there was much between the 2 when they played. Certainly the Royals gave away the opener out there in Cleveland, but they won the second game of the 2 that were played after game 2 of 3 of the series ended up getting rained out and postponed to later this year. So, on the field, it doesn't feel like there's a gulf with these 2 organizations. You look at the pitching matchups for this weekend. Tonight is Michael Wacha and Ben Lively. Tomorrow, Alec Marsh and Tristan McKenzie. Saturday, box office, Cole Reagan and Tanner Bybee.
That's going to be awesome.
That's the one to go to if you were thinking about going to the K for one of these 4 games based on the pitching matchup alone. That is box office on Saturday. Although I've said that, and then the end result has been like 9-7 games. Like, remember when I hyped up the Reagan's Burns showdown and neither of them got through the 5th? Like, hey, that's baseball, right? You can't predict it.
Yeah, it happens.
Seth Lugo, Logan Allen, the pitching matchup on Sunday. I think the Royals have the starting pitching advantage all 4 games this series.
All 4?
All 4 games this series.
Wow.
Genuinely. I believe they have the better starting pitcher. I know Alec Marsh hasn't been going well, but Tristan McKenzie hasn't been going well either. And McKenzie in particular has been really rough early in outings. The Royals want to get after him early on Friday. But I think it's a pitching advantage as far as the starters for Kansas City in every game of this series. And so that would lend you to think, hey, they ought to at least be able to get 2. Why not get 3 out of 4 at home, where the Royals have been really good all season long? That should be the goal. But I think one thing is pretty illustrative of where the Guardians are just organizationally and where the Royals are trying to get to. It's not just in the standings.
Mm-hmm.
I think in a broader sense, the Royals are playing catch up to what the Guardians are and what the Guardians have been as a successful winning organization that, don't get me wrong, Cleveland is not a big market. This is not a franchise that's outspending you in the Central Division.
Mm-hmm.
These are the smart guys. These are the guys who are out developing. These are the guys who are out thinking. There's a reason that the Royals went out when they had a chance to reset their coaching staff and they went and hired a manager from Tampa Bay. They went and hired Brian Sweeney from Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
And the number 1 line on Brian Sweeney's resume was from Cleveland.
Yep.
From the Cleveland organization. The Guardians are what the Royals want to be. And I think if you watch the Guardians play, there are certain things about them that make it pretty clear that they are the organization that the Royals are trying to catch, just in terms of organizational acumen, organizational success. It's the development of less heralded prospects. Will Brennan, K-Stater, Blue Valley kid.
Yeah.
26 years old, not really a prospect coming up. Look what he's done. 730 OPS. He's an everyday player out there in right field. Has 8 home runs. That's not a superstar, but that's a pretty good outcome for a guy that maybe you weren't expecting that from when you draft Will Brennan into your organization. You get him up into the major leagues. Stephen Kwan hits for power now. Stephen Kwan, who is already one of the best contact hitters in baseball, now he's slugging .552 with 7 home runs, which I think is a career high for him already in 52 games this year. It's either a career high or it's tied a career high, I believe. Yeah, it's a career high. He leads the American League in batting average on top of that. You've got a guy in Kwan who obviously did one thing really, really well when he got to the big, and more than one thing, the contact skill. Yeah, but he also I think he won a Gold Glove his first season too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe he did.
Now he's adding to the skill set. Now he's hitting for power, and he's still he's not sacrificing the contact. He's not sacrificing strikeouts. He's only struck out 16 times in 235 plate appearances. Player development on the fly. Did you guys happen to catch the Cleveland highlights last night from Baltimore?
I did, yeah.
Did you see the big fella, John Kenzie Noel, and his big league debut?
Yes, he faced 2 pitches in his first major league at bat. The first one, the bat exploded. Like the 95% of the bat flew down the third base line. The other 5% was left in his hand. And then on the next pitch, he hit a ball 648 feet.
He hit an enormous home run off of Grayson Rodriguez.
Felt like 648 anyway.
I think he's only like the 4th Clevelander, Ian, if you will, of all time to hit a home run in his first major league at bat. First one to do it since Kevin Kuzmanov. How's that for remembering some guys?
Only the 4th ever? They've been around for so long.
They've been around. Yeah, they've been around for a really long time.
Wow.
But I believe, he's the 4th ever. John Kenzie Noel is the 26th ranked prospect in the Cleveland system. We have talked about the relative strength or lack thereof of the Kansas City Royals farm system. Mm-hmm. For the Guardians to be able to call up number 26, and he can do that, and he might be able to keep doing that in the lineup for a while, because the Guardians are not a perfect team. Their lineup isn't super deep. We talked about that when they were going to play at the beginning of the month. that it's a lineup that's being carried by its stars. It's being carried by Quan and Jose Ramirez and Josh Naylor, and then David Fry out of nowhere, speaking of player development success stories.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can add a guy to the mix like Noel, hitting the ball that far, where they already tried one of their top prospects, Kyle Manzardo, and he didn't really hit at all in his 30-game trial. He had no home runs and slugged just 329. But, okay, they go try another guy from their top 30 list, and he can do that. So the Royals, flip side, who did they go to when they needed an infusion of offense from AAA? CJ Alexander, who has been less than convincing. And I know it's only been 2 games. It's only been 1 game for Noel, but less than convincing. If you watch, you can see it. You can see it, and you can kind of not see it with CJ Alexander. So I just think broadly, when these 2 teams meet up, and these 2 teams are chasing each other in the standings for now, but when you watch the Guardians, I think most especially when it comes to how pitchers are developed, how pitchers are taught, this is the gold standard in the American League Central Division, and it's the organization the Royals want to be. And if they could take a couple of games at the big league level here this weekend, that's a big step forward and will be huge in the wild card race, huge in the Central race.
Mm-hmm.
But take the broad view of this weekend, too, that the Royals are in the process of trying to make themselves into what the Guardians have proven that they are over time.
You could argue that they're the gold standard in Major League Baseball, couldn't you? Like, the Rays are up there. I think the Giants are up there.
So it's interesting how this works, right? Like, if you look at the 6 divisions in Major League Baseball, the East and the West, the coastal divisions, if you will, there are financial titans in all of those divisions. There are big spenders. In the National League West, it's the Dodgers. And the Giants have some money to throw around, but the Dodgers are the financial titans of the National League West. In the American League West, it should be the Angels, but they're all kinds of screwed up. But you've got Houston and Texas in the West, in Dallas. Big markets, big spenders. Out East, you got the Yankees, obviously. You've got Boston, who spends freely when they want. In the National League East, you have the Mets, and you have the Phillies in a market like Philadelphia. In the Central divisions, the Chicago teams don't outspend the competition, certainly not the White Sox, in ways that you can argue that they should. I see the color draining from your face when I talk about the Chicago team's general refusal to throw their weight around financially in a Central division. I could see you taking that personally a little bit.
The Ricketts are worth like $6 billion. That's all I'm going to say. I'll just leave it at that.
But the point is, you don't have a team that's just going to outspend you in the Central.
You have, regardless of market size, you've got more of your peers in the Central divisions.
And so for the Guardians, and I think that their counterparts in the National League Central, the Milwaukee Brewers, who've kind of become the standard team in that division as the Cardinals have taken a step back the last couple of seasons. Those are teams that they're not necessarily outspending. They're just spending smarter and they're developing smarter. They have been ahead of the developmental curve, especially when it comes to pitching, for a really long time.
Well, to your point, I saw this report the other day when they believe reached 50 wins. The Guardians did. They have the least payroll and the most wins.
Yeah, we're 26th, I think, in payroll. I saw that same tweet. I think they're 26th in payroll.
On the lower part of payroll, doing the most with the least.
Which, we've talked about this before, specifically with the Rays. We have talked about this. That just encourages teams to not spend money on players and facilities and stuff, which is not good. But it does tell you that they are deep, that they are young, that they are cost-controlled, and that, honestly, to me, it says that they might be around for a little while if they can keep some of these dudes who are under team control on this roster.
You're built for long-term success. Particularly if you can continue to develop pitching the way that the Guardians have. The Guardians have 51 wins. Their ace got hurt 2 starts into the season. Their best guy, Shane Bieber, out for the year. Any other team with similar resources, they lose their ace, it'd be a world of hurt.
Yeah.
Not Cleveland. They just say, we got Tanner Bybee. And oh, by the way, they're going to call up a kid named Gavin Williams who's got a ton of potential. They're going to get him back to the bigs here pretty shortly after he spent some time on the injured list. He's rehabbing at AAA right now.
I mean, the 25th and 26th ranked payrolls in the league are 2 of the top teams in the American League.
Yeah, because Baltimore doesn't have to pay. This is the other thing too.
Yeah.
You don't have to spend a lot of money when you're paying all of your pre-arbitration guys $12.50 an hour plus tips.
Yeah.
And that's the foundation of the Baltimore Orioles lineup is pre-arb guys. Rutschman, Henderson.
Yeah, let's play a fun game here. What is Gunnar Henderson being paid this year?
$12.50 an hour plus tips.
$756,000, which, as always, the caveat, for normal people, that's life-changing money.
Yes.
Athletes are not normal people.
It's $10 per home run. At least that's how it feels.
Yeah,
Dude
certainly.
is on one, man.
Just mashing. You had another one last night.
Yeah, he did.
Well, to that point, Milwaukee is 22nd.
And they keep rolling.
And everybody thought they were tearing it down this year. Remember?
I did.
They traded Burns. They traded Burns to Baltimore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've continued to do this because, we'll just go ahead and give Reese Hoskins a little bit of scratch. And he's been productive for them. We'll just keep it rolling with guys you've never heard of. You know who Tobias Myers is? I sure don't. He's one of their best starting pitchers.
How about this? There's only 2 teams in the top 10, or 3 teams, I believe. 3 teams in the top 10 in payroll that are over 500.
Wow.
That's wild.
Dodgers, Yankees. Who's the other one?
Braves.
Braves. Okay. Yeah.
But then you have 2 teams at 500 with the Mets being at 500 and Houston being at 500.
Still
over 500. That's 30% of your top paying teams.
Which goes to show, it's why I've never bought the argument that just because you aren't in the top 10 in payroll, you can't be good. You just have to be smart.
Yeah.
You just have to develop really well, and you have to develop it volume so that, like, the Yankees could withstand losing Garrett Cole for 3 months because they spent big money on a guy like Carlos Rodon.
Right.
You know, they can outspend their mistakes. They went out and got Juan Soto because they had the farm system capability to go out and go get a guy like that, make sure their lineup was deep enough. They could withstand a loss like that. Most teams that spend what Cleveland spends, you're not withstanding the loss of a Shane Bieber.
No.
But Cleveland just keeps cranking out credible starting pitchers. And this year, they just keep cranking out bullpen arms.
If I may sidebar for just a moment, we talked about them earlier in the week. It must have been maybe on Monday's show. The Houston Astros, if their pitching can get any kind of healthy down the stretch, I think they are really dangerous because they are not even close to full strength. The dude they were paying a ton of money to was outrighted. He gone in Jose Abreu, and they are playing really good baseball.
Well, to be fair, they just got to beat up on Colorado for 2 days. Let's pump the brakes. Let's pump the brakes a little bit on the Astros. They've still got, I think, some concerns pitching wise. Bullpen's not particularly deep. Starting rotation is held together by like a
super banged up
thread. Like, they're going to get Verlander back, but they're not going to get Christian Javier back. They're not going to get Jose Urquidy, who they were hoping to get back. Like Spencer Arrighetti isn't very good, despite what he looked like against, again, a terrible Colorado team yesterday. So, yes, Houston's back in the mix, certainly after a miserable start to the season, but they're a team that can outspend their mistakes. Like, it doesn't bother them so much that they had to cut Jose Abreu because they have developed Joey Loperfido, and he is OPSing 785. And that's not a fake name.
I want Tim Kirkjian to say that name.
Joey Loperfido.
So good.
I love it.
The pitching matchups, by the way, to rehash them, Dan mentioned that he thinks the Royals have the best matchup starting-wise in every game this series. It's Waka versus Lively. Royals great tonight. That's been Lively. Alec Marsh, Tristan McKenzie tomorrow. Cole Reagans, Tanner Bybee on Saturday. And then Logan Allen, Seth Lugo coming up on Sunday. I like the Royals' chances in all of those. They should be in the game for 6 full innings. If the offense is as good as we know it can be, they will be in every single one of these games through 6 innings. They should be.
Well, what do they always say? Momentum is the next day's starting pitcher. Well, that's kind of true for the offense as well, right? That momentum for an offense is as good as who's starting for you the next day. And Ben Lively, the ex-Royal, has had a renaissance year for Cleveland. Again, you talk about developing big leaguers. He's 32 years old. He's better than he's ever been at the major league level, but he's not missing a ton of bats. He's given up a home run and a half per 9. Like, the 3.03 ERA is shiny, but there's evidence he's doing it with mirrors. Like, this is a guy you can go make some contact against. So let's see the Royals put some good swings together, which they did not do for the better part of 25 of the 27 innings, 26 innings, I guess, in the Marlins series, right up until the final 7 batters of Wednesday's game. More at bats like that.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Trenton is raising his hand on the other side. Trenton,
Are we in class?
Very polite.
Trenton,
I respect it.
Chomping at the back. I think Trenton was going to drive to the K and riot on the field if they'd lost on Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah, we had already banned him. From
Yeah, I
going to
know.
Another game.
You're lucky they won yesterday. So
Yeah.
you can come back.
Yeah. Before I go off, I almost rioted the field on Tuesday night after the game because I went to the bathroom in the bottom of the 6th inning. I'm walking back. We're right next to the Royals bullpen. And I see Carlos Hernandez warming up in the bullpen in a 1-0 game. I'm like, what are we doing, people? You know what Carlos Hernandez strikeout per 9 was entering the 7th inning?
What was it?
2.57 strikeouts per 9 for Carlos Hernandez this year, entering the 7th inning.
Not what you want.
No, that can't be real.
But going back
Small
to
sample size caveats apply here.
yeah, he has. I think he's only thrown like 7 innings this year, but still not missing any bats. But you want to be winning if you're the Royals because you do not want to get to the 9th inning because you know who's the best closer in the baseball game right now? Emmanuel Clase, who has appeared in 39 games this year and thrown 38 1/3 innings and giving up 3 earned runs. He has a 0.7 ERA and he has the most appearances for Cleveland.
He's a bad dude. He's one of the rare guys that doesn't need to strike out a bunch of guys. You think you watch him throw 102-mile-an-hour cutters? Boy, he probably strikes out everybody. No, his strikeout rate's pretty like normal for a closer. It's right around 1 per inning, 9 per 9. Nobody hits him hard because again, he's throwing 102-mile-an-hour cutters. And how long can he keep doing this for a team that has absolutely overworked him? Like, is the meat gonna fall off the bone like on the finest ribs when we get to August and September? I think it's an open question, but yeah, he is the big bad wolf. You do not want to be behind. We talked about it beginning of the month when they played in Cleveland. The time to strike the first 5 innings. You want to win the first 5 innings. You want to put yourself in a position where you're playing from ahead against that Cleveland team because that bullpen is feeding them crumbs.
Additionally, you want to talk about we thought X team was going to be tearing it down. There was a lot of talk this offseason about moving Emmanuel Clase. Like, that was one of the big and Bieber. Those were 2 of the biggest names on the trade block all offseason. And now look at what Cleveland is doing. We've got more Royals baseball to get to later on in the show. But next, after our commercial break, Johnny Furphy, shocking everybody, falls out of round 1. He was the top player available by ESPN's rankings from like pick 13 on. And he doesn't go in the first round. We'll talk about why that might have been after this on 580 Sports Talk. Live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio, this is 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, Spencer with you in studio. Trenton across the glass. Trenton, you just informed me during the commercial the Guardians made a move during our first segment.
Yeah, do y'all remember Matthew Boyd, who was like a Cy Young guy?
Here comes Matt Boyd.
Yes.
Oh, bleep, what up?
He got a major league deal from the Guardians, pending physical.
Well, he is coming back from Tommy John.
So a major league deal is kind of interesting then. Am I?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I'd seen that and I was doing a little bit more digging and trying to find more information before I just spewed it out because I don't know a lot about Michael Boyd. Matt Boyd.
Matthew Boyd.
Exactly.
First name. Yeah.
Matthew Boyd. I didn't know a lot about him, so I didn't want to spew out things I didn't know. Clearly, I didn't know his dang name, so I was going to go through and.
Is this his second TJ?
I don't know.
Because he missed a bunch of 2022. Only made 15 starts in 2021, made 10 appearances in 22, 15 starts in 2023 with Detroit. There was a time he struck out 238 guys in 185 and a third innings in 2019.
Yeah, he played 15 games last year, so I don't know if it was the latter half.
He also gave up 39 home runs that year.
It's not great.
Like, I don't know. I'm just going to tell you this. He's not as good as I remembered him being, just by going to his baseball reference page.
I think he just beat up on the Royals.
Perhaps.
He had flexor tendon surgery in 21.
Okay.
So that's what kept him
flexor
out for a
tendon
while.
surgery and then Tommy John surgery. Yeah, and he's 33 now,
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah. Don't know how much he's got in the tank, but if he's being signed to a major league deal, yeah, that would suggest that they would like to get him to the big club. And I don't know necessarily who he would replace in their starting rotation, if indeed that's where they were going to use him, is their rotation. They're good on lefties out of the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could take Xavier Curry's spot in the bullpen. He's not any good.
No. Sick name, though.
Yeah, very cool.
I guess John Heyman reported on June 8th that he threw for 17 teams in California on June 7th. Almost every contender could use a starter. He threw 92 to 93.
Yes, it's true that almost every contender could use a starter. Like Logan Allen is not good. Carlos Carrasco is 37 years old and in decline. Like, they've got a couple of holes in their rotation. There's a reason I said I think the Royals have the pitching edge in all 4 games this weekend. It's not a great rotation. It could use some help and some depth. I'm just skeptical that Matt Boyd off of Tommy John surgery is that guy.
I forgot Carrasco ended up back in Cleveland after going to the Mets briefly.
Yeah.
He won 15 games 2 years ago.
He's had a really nice career, and he beat cancer. He
did.
Carlos Carrasco rules, but he's probably past his best.
Boyd last year in 15 games had a 5.45 ERA in 71 innings, giving up 11 homers.
Yeah, that was always his thing. A lot of strikeouts, a lot of loud contact.
Man, he would have been an awesome Royal in 2021 when they were just giving him. Who was it? Junis used to always give up just gopher ball.
Yes, Jacob Junis
God.
could not keep the ball in the ballpark. He had a frankly hilarious home run per 9 inning one year, I think. I'm trying to find him on reference.
Or as our good pal Britt Zweigert, his dad believed his name to be Jakob Junis.
Maybe that's who's been pitching for San Francisco and Milwaukee since. Because he's been much better since leaving Kansas City. Yeah, he gave up 2.5 homers per 9 in the COVID year.
That's a lot. That's a lot of home runs.
7 home runs in 25 and a third.
Jeez Louise, that is ugly, ugly, ugly. Also ugly last night, the slide for Johnny Furphy, the stud from KU last year, kind of one of the best stories in all of college basketball last year. He was a late recruiting ad for KU, had shin splints during boot camp, was not anything to start the year. Then in January, KU's best player for 3 weeks. And I know there was a lot of consternation about, he should have come back. He's not ready yet. Or I was saying, hey, look, man, if he got enough of a promise to go be in the green room, clearly he's a first-round talent. I was so confident about it. And he didn't get picked. I thought for picks like 15 through 30, I thought there would have been a spot for him anywhere. And there wasn't a spot for him anywhere. That was a bizarre draft last night.
I don't like the NBA draft. You tweeted about it. I wholeheartedly agree with your tweet. I was so confused.
So the thing I'm talking about specifically here and that Spencer is referencing is that trades are not complete until after the draft. So they announce it, or Woj goes on TV and breaks news, hey, the Knicks are trading with the Wizards. So it says on screen, Knicks are picking, like,
Proposed trade.
That's the word. Thank you. Proposed trade to Wizards. And then they announce a pick for the Knicks. The guy puts a Knicks hat on. He'll never play for the Knicks. And then the TV crew, poor Malika Andrews, was so lost. By pick 28, the last trade of the night, she was so lost. She was doing, oh, well, how do you think this player is going to fit for Denver? Actually, who cares? It's not going to Denver. Let's go to the pick.
Yeah, she had to like reroute her sentence in the middle of the sentence. Like I was watching at the same time thinking, Malika, they traded the pick 30 minutes ago.
Denver already picked.
Yeah.
Denver already got the guy they wanted.
Horrible. The whole thing is like, oh, well, they need clearance from the commissioner's office. The commissioner is there. He's backstage. Go ask him. Have your GM go ask Adam Silver, hey, can I make this trade?
Other leagues do it. Look,
NFL does it.
Roger Goodell comes up to the podium, and with the 58th pick, the Titans have traded their pick to the Chiefs.
We have a trade to announce.
Yeah,
why does it take so long to hammer out
the
trade
Chiefs are
details?
drafting blank.
The funny thing, when Silver announced a trade during the broadcast, it was like during pick 20 or so, it was announcing that the Washington pick at 14 had been traded, which happened earlier in the day. He said there is a trade to announce, and then he announced that trade. Dog, we already knew. Every NBA fan follows Woj on Twitter. Like, everybody knew about this hours ago. It is a terrible, terrible product.
Yeah, it's a really bad TV show. Like the NFL, I generally don't think drafts are great television, but this is really bad television.
Yes.
And it's even worse when four of the first six picks in this draft, I have never seen dribble a basketball.
Did you see what KU legend, my all-time favorite Jayhawk, Frank Mason, tweeted about Zachary Risache, the number 1 overall pick? Let me go find what he actually said. I want to give you guys the exact quote here. My guy Biffum said, played this young guy in France this past season. No way he's the number 1 pick in the NBA draft, LOL, but I guess. And they were talking about him as a 3-and-D role player.
As
That's Svi Mikhailuk, dude.
As a number 1 overall pick.
What in the world?
LOL, I guess, is probably a pretty fair description of the team that had to pick number 1, the Atlanta Hawks, because there was not a number 1 prospect on this board. Typically, you think about number 1 picks, you think about franchise-changing guys. You think about future all-stars. Zachary Risache, his best-case scenario is French DeAndre Hunter.
So, like, I look at the rest of the draft, and I think, man, was Johnny really a worse option, or a less worthy option than any of these other dudes? Like, Keyshawn George from Miami, like, okay, like, he's got some ball handling skills, I guess. What do you know about Pacom Dadier?
I know he lit it up for Ratio Farm Ulm last year with 6.8 points per game.
The Bucks at 23 drafted an American who, instead of going to college or even going to the G League program, went to Australia, averaged under 3 points per game, and according to every reporter, they said it on TV, everyone, he is too skinny to even get on the floor, let alone to succeed, too skinny to get on the floor. We're talking about a kid who could have been was Furphy an all Big 12 newcomer? I don't know. He could have been in a better league than the NBL.
Sorry to cut you off there. I've always had problems with international players in the NBA draft, and that goes back to when the Wizards drafted Jan Vesely. Exactly. Your laugh goes to show what I'm talking about.
It is funny, though, because like your favorite team has had success with maybe the greatest international player ever. In fact, it might not be if anymore. I mean, he might just be the greatest international player ever. It was such an afterthought idea. They were airing a Taco Bell commercial when he was picked. And it's one thing when it's Luka, and every basketball person knew. It's one thing when it's Wemby, when everyone knows. Nobody knows any of these dudes.
Yeah, I saw Luka and Wemby highlights. Those were inescapable. I do not know if Alex Sarr has ever even seen a basketball. Like, I don't know if I handed him one right now, what would he do? Would he dribble it? Would he try to eat it? Would he try to exchange it for goods and services? Like, what do these guys know?
It's crazy. Like
even Ron Holland, who went 5th to the Pistons, which everybody agrees is a terrible pick. Like the Pistons have no spacing, and they draft another wing who can't shoot. With the number 5 overall pick, he's a G League Ignite kid. I don't know if he can play basketball.
Absolutely no idea.
I have no clue if any of those G League Ignite guys can play.
I don't know if any team had a good pick.
The AJ Johnson pick was so funny. My attention was pretty divided during the draft. Naturally,
I can only imagine why.
As a father, as a new father, my attention is often divided. But I looked up and I saw somebody coming out of the crowd to the podium, and the chyron saying he was from United States.
I've never seen that before.
And I said, "Nah, this is fake. This isn't really happening. This is deep fake. This is like from the 10th season of somebody's 2K dynasty."
From United States. Again, like, how is Furphy not a better option? And I saw from Eric Bossy over at 24/7, he said that I would be shocked. Bigger shock than him falling out of the first round would be if Johnny Furphy doesn't get maybe the biggest guarantee of any second round pick. He was pretty confident he's going to get plenty of cash and probably a guarantee. But I cannot believe that. All the respect in the world to Dylan Jones of Weber State. All the respect in the world. He stayed for 4 years at Weber State, had offers to go elsewhere, stuck around, Big Sky Player of the Year. You're telling me that dude's better than Johnny Furphy? I don't think so.
Upside, no, but he played 4 years of college. And so it kind of goes back to, what I was saying about some of these teams drafting in the latter part of the draft, valuing experience, valuing age, valuing maybe the ability to get on the floor right away, like Terrence Shannon going to Minnesota with the 27th pick, or Deron Holmes going to Denver. They trade up to 22 to get him. Creighton taking Baylor Shireman. Like, I think Johnny Furphy has Boston.
Creighton already had him.
Yes, Creighton did have Baylor Shireman. I'm sorry, I'm reading the draft log, and it said Creighton next to his name. Anyway, Boston taking Baylor Shireman. I think Johnny Furphy has a higher ceiling than Baylor Shireman.
Mm-hmm.
But Baylor Shireman is 23 going on 24 years old. And
Grown
played
man.
A lot more college basketball. And there's a little bit more certainty with the guy you're giving a first-round guarantee to, where with Furphy, I think he's going to be a good NBA player. I think he's going to be a good shooter.
Mm-hmm.
I think a consistent knockdown shooter.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a good player in transition. I think he's going to find his way on defense. But I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think that him not being a finished product is what hurt him as the draft got later and later.
That's fair. I think that's certainly fair.
At the same time, I liked him better as a prospect than Keyshawn George, and I did not know who AJ Johnson was before last night. So, I don't know, man. It was a very confusing draft all the way around. Zach Edey went the top 10.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
Zach Edey, height merchant, goes number 9 to Memphis. Dalton Knecht dropped to number 17.
I think that might have been the best pick. I don't know that it makes the Lakers like a contender, but if you're talking about what do you need and what's available, that might have been the best pick of the whole draft.
We have a text in from the 913 on the Top City Mail Supply. It says exactly the same thing. JJ Redick got to draft JJ Redick. I think that was probably pretty exciting for him.
I think
that's not a knock. Like, I'm not being
no. Redick
was a really good NBA player.
Like for 14 years or something, and Knecht's bigger than Redick was.
Yeah.
So we will tell you when Johnny Furphy goes, when Kevin McCullough goes. The draft restarts in 13 minutes. What are we doing?
Live from the ESPN Seaport Studios in Manhattan.
Max Kellerman is still. Max Kellerman's like walking around the studio, like, "Oh, can I be on this? Can you bring me back for this?"
Yeah.
Ridiculous programming. When we come back, On 3 has projected the college football playoff teams this year and all the bowl matchups. I'm not so hot on their projections, though. I'll tell you why next on 580 Sports Talk, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio, this is 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, Spencer, Trenton here with you. Mark on YouTube mentioned, Max Kellerman doesn't work there anymore. I know, but he just disappeared off the face of the earth. He might just be lingering around in New York, just kind of waiting to be pulled in. Like, you guys didn't really get rid of me, right?
Was he? I always confuse him and the other guy. Is he this just in guy that I was talking about?
This just in with Max Kellerman.
That was Max Kellerman.
Yeah.
Turned into a great bit.
He's kind of literally fallen off the face of the earth.
Just disappeared.
There's like nothing about what he's doing right now.
Real quick, the folks at On3, they cover college sports. They were born out of the 24/7 folks. But anyway, if you haven't heard of them before, that's who they are. They came up, and their writer, Nick Costco, came up with their projections for every single bowl game in college football this year, as well as the participants in the college football playoff. I want to start there. We're short on time. I want to start there. He's got one Big 12 team making it into the 12-team playoff. That is Utah as the Big 12 champions. Big 12 champion automatically gets a top 4 seed and he has the number 4. So one team from the conference as the last automatic bid. I feel like that is a really pessimistic view of what this year can be. And maybe we end up in a year where the Big 12 turns into the old Pac-12 and the whole conference just cannibalizes itself and everyone is 9-3 with 2 or 3 conference losses, and that's just what it is, and tough luck. I think there's some really high upside with a lot of this league, though. Utah, K-State, I think Oklahoma State, because of how old they are, and it is Mike Gundy. I think KU's got that kind of upside. I think Arizona's got that kind of upside. I think this is a really pessimistic opinion on the Big 12.
Yeah, I'd be really surprised if there were only one playoff caliber team, but like, okay, 11-2 K-State or say 9-3 Tennessee. What do you think the committee's going to do? Tennessee. What do you think the college football playoff committee is going to do? When last year they proved it wasn't about what you did on the field. It was about the TV product. The playoff is still a television show, guys. Yep. It is not a measure of who the best team in college football is. It is a television show. It is an exhibition. It is if you moved the Maui Invitational to the end of the college basketball season. It is what it is.
Yeah. It's a great point, and you're going to have to win a lot if you want to get in from the Big 12. And I hope the conference does, but I mean, it's going to be the same argument we had over the past 10 years with, so-and-so deserved it, but you went with the SEC team. It's just going to be the same thing, except instead of Big 12 number 2 and it'll be, Big 12 number 2 and SEC number 4 instead of Big 12 1 and SEC number 2. That's how it's going to be fleshed out. Real quick here, we got about 2 minutes. Their projections for KU and K-State. Would these be a disappointment? It's got Kansas in the Texas Bowl against Oklahoma. Wild matchup, obviously. Would the Texas Bowl, which is the third non-playoff bowl in the pecking order for the Big 12, would that be a disappointment for KU?
Third non-playoff? Well, if that means they're the 4th best team in the conference, I don't think that'd be a disappointment.
No, yeah, I'd agree.
If that's how you look at it, if it was one Big 12 team in the tournament, and if KU's 4th in the pecking order, they finished 4th in the Big 12. We're still only 3 years removed from them being the worst Power 5 team, the worst Big 12 team.
Yeah,
I think if you're saying that's a disappointment, it might depend on what the losses are and when they come.
That's a good point. I think that's very important. Kansas State, he's got them in the Alamo Bowl against Lincoln Riley and USC. Disappointment? That, by the way, is number 1. That's the number 1 non-playoff bowl for the Big 12.
I think there are a lot of K-State fans who might be thinking playoff or bust.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get there because I just don't know what to expect from the defense, what to expect from the offensive line.
I agree.
So I am of the mind that if Kansas State finishes 2nd or 3rd in the Big 12, that probably still means they're a really good team, really entertaining team.
Mm-hmm.
That would not be a disappointment. I don't think that they have. Now, I reserve the right to be proven wrong, which has happened many, many times before. It will happen many, many more times down the road. But I think if K-State finishes 2nd or 3rd in the Big 12 this year, that's a really, really good season.
Coming up in the 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk, we've got some Chiefs news and notes to get to. We'll play this week's round of either or over under. And we will be joined by the one and only Rick Peterson from TopSports.news for this week's edition of the Lewis Toyota High School Whiparound. Plenty went down at the Ramada last night on campus at Washburn for the Shawnee County Sports Hall of Fame inductions and awards show. We'll talk to Pistol about that all next hour right back here on 580 Sports Talk, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. go. 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way. I'm Brendan Dworzynski. That's Dan Lucero. That's Spencer Dupuis across the glass. That is Spencer Kraxner. Goodness gracious.
I was there
That's
yesterday.
Trenton Kraxner.
I was there yesterday.
Yeah, Spencer was over on that side of the glass. So
and if Trenton wasn't here, I would be there.
that's true. Okay. I'm going to give myself a break.
Yeah,
I'm taking a mulligan. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the grace. Coming up in this 3 o'clock hour of the program, we'll talk some Chiefs football here in just a moment. We'll also play either or, over, under, and we have the Lewis Toyota High School Whiparound with Rick Peterson of TopSports.news. That's all coming up this hour. We want you to be a part of the show, either on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429, or on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. Go subscribe to us on YouTube if you have not already. It is awesome. We have so much cool stuff up there. We're going to live stream the 580 Sports Talk Olympics in a couple of weeks. All of our catalog of live shows, all of our instant game reactions, all of that you can find on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. Go check it out. For me, do something nice for your boy and go subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have a comment here from John on the YouTube stream. Thank you for listening and hanging out with us, John. Regarding the topic we talked about to end the 2 o'clock hour, KU and K-State, finishing top 3 or top 4 in the Big 12 with a true freshman QB that's mostly unproven would be a great finish. If K-State had a proven wide receiver room, I would feel much better about my Cats. And it goes on to say sophomore, not freshman. Did he get a red shirt, Avery?
No, he played too many games.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, he is a true sophomore.
And then says just to add on, John added, my worry for both KU and K-State this year is QB health and durability. Absolutely for KU. Like, KU is going to hit its ceiling if Jalen Daniels is healthy, for sure. I think everyone agrees on that. For K-State, I don't know that I'm worried about the durability. I mean, Avery's smaller. I just want to know. Like, I want to see it with a full playbook, because other than the bowl game, which was goofy and weird, they all are, we never saw a full K-State playbook designed for Avery Johnson. It was a segment of the playbook because Will Howard was your starting quarterback. I really want to see the first 3 weeks of the season, like through the non-conference, through that Arizona game. What does it look like? Because that will probably tell me, okay, I love the potential, but we're still maybe a year away from Avery being fully ready. Or no, he's that dude right now. He's already that dude. Let's rock and roll. They can win this conference. I just need a little bit of time with him as the full-time guy is all.
No, that's totally understandable. It's interesting to hear that wide receivers, proven wide receiver room is a concern. I actually really like the direction that K-State's headed at wide receiver. I feel about as good about that group. Certainly they're going to miss Ben Sinnott if you just take pass catcher as a whole. Yeah. But when it comes to the wide receivers, I feel really good about Jace Brown and Keegan Johnson and Cephas, the transfer, former Penn State player, coming in, and some of the other guys K-State's got on campus. I feel like they're going to piece it together pretty nicely at wide receiver. I think they got a higher ceiling at wide receiver and maybe a little bit more potential for depth at wide receiver than they have had in recent years. I think Jace Brown has an opportunity to be a dude, like from Jump Street as a sophomore.
Yeah, they're just kind of lacking the name recognition I think they've had in even over the last couple of years when it hasn't been a great room. It was guys who were around for a long time who you knew, who contributed one way or the other. Just haven't had a lot of that with this group so far. But I like the potential. I think sky high potential. Yeah. It's just a matter of I want to see it. I want to see the proof of concept is what I want to see.
I think it's a Big 12 wide receiver room. And I don't know that there have been recent years where I would have said it feels like Big 12 caliber up and down.
That's fair. I mean, shoot, even 2 years ago, going into the Big 12 championship game, that was a good wide receiver room, but there were questions being asked about it, even into the Sugar Bowl that year. It was not like that was an infallible room.
Phillip Brooks got better, but he was pretty one-dimensional at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And Malik Knowles, I feel like, was never quite reached his ceiling. And man, miss RJ Garcia. Really thought there was something there. RJ Garcia, he caught that touchdown in the Big 12 championship game. You and I might have been the only people in the press box who weren't directly affiliated with Kansas State University who knew who he was.
We're like, yes. It was the Leonardo DiCaprio meme from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yes, RJ. No, that was a huge day for our brand because it was all dudes. We're like, hey, they could be good. All were good. Keenan Garber got in and got some run in that game.
Yeah, he sure did. Played well.
Now, K-State can get back there this year. It's just for me offensively. I just want to see it. I just want to see it in practice. I think they can be really, really good. I like Jace Brown. I like Jace Brown a lot.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of putting it all together as a group. From college football to the NFL, by the way, sidebar, I apologize. Sidebarring myself. You know the Message Board Geniuses Twitter account?
Oh, yeah.
So if you're not on Twitter, you're not on social media, there's this account called Message Board Geniuses, and they just take submissions from people, screenshots of dumb things people say on message boards, college message boards.
I think I found this the other day because there's a Marshall one.
So there was one about from a KU board, the free board over at fog.net. I hype up Fog every time we talk to Michael, and he does unbelievable work. I never touch the free board. I'm a VIP. I never touch the free board. It is scary. It's not quite Texags, but it's scary. And there was someone saying that they thought the KU wide receiver room was better than the Chiefs. And look, realistically, no. You and I both said that at least half earnestly multiple times last season.
We were only joking a little bit at certain points during last year's Chiefs season. Man, imagine if Mahomes had anybody to throw to as good as Luke Grimm.
You're telling me he couldn't have gotten some run in the slot, 10 snaps a game? You're telling me LJ Arnold couldn't have gotten a couple of targets?
Better either of them than Tony, right?
Right. Yeah, no kidding. Or Sky Moore, God forbid. I just wanted to get to that. Yeah, it's not true, but it kind of felt true at times last season. All right, to the Kansas City Chiefs. Nate Taylor over at The Athletic. He emptied out his notebook as we get ready for training camp coming up starting next month. We are now it begins on the 16th. So we are 7, 14, 19 days away from the start of camp. Can you believe that already this quickly? He's got his 5 questions ahead of training camp that he just wants addressed or is curious about. Number 1, I think we all could have guessed this. Who's going to get more first-team reps at camp? Is it going to be Wanye Morris? Is it going to be Kingsley Suamataia? Do you know who got more reps at mandatory minicamp with the first-team offensive line?
It was Suamataia, wasn't it?
It was Suamataia. They actually had Wanye Morris move to a couple of different spots to get some reps. If Suamataia is good enough as a rookie to be a fine left tackle, they don't need great because they have legit greatness on his inside in Joe Thuney, who we'll get to later. They don't need him to be great. They need him to be good enough. Just like how many other dudes they've had. Andrew Wiley, just be good enough in that same kind of mold with a higher ceiling. If he can be that, sweet. Lock, stock, and barrel, let's go. That's an awesome setup as far as I'm concerned for the Kansas City Chiefs. If he isn't able to go right away, sure, you put Wanye Morris in there. But if Suamataia gets the job, and then Wanye Morris can be your swing, he can play left tackle, he can play right tackle, or they gave him a little bit of run at guard, and with Joe Thuney kind of banged up this offseason, he got some work there. I actually really like that setup if I'm the Chiefs. I like that a whole lot more than just nailing on Wanye Morris as a starting left tackle.
Well, they're missing that guy, right? They don't have that guy on the roster. Nick Allegretti's no longer a Chief, so they don't have that 6th lineman that you feel like if one of these 5 goes down, we can plug in OL6 and we're going to be in good shape. We'll recalibrate how we have to recalibrate, but we won't miss a beat. We'll be just fine. They don't have that guy. They had that guy in Nick Allegretti, and he proved his worth in the Super Bowl run, in the playoff run, but they don't have that guy right now. And maybe Wanye Morris is that guy. Like, that's a pretty clear indicator. If they gave Suamataia more first-team reps, they'll say the right things publicly. Like,
sure.
Yeah, well, we just want to make sure he's ready for camp. Like, we are trying to give you this job. And if you don't screw it up, you're going to have it.
You're going to have that job. Exactly. Did Allegretti also end up in Washington? I know.
Yeah, he did.
Wiley did 2 years ago.
Yeah, Allegretti signed with Washington. Also, for some reason, as much as I didn't like Wiley last year, he was like ranked really high on the PFF scale.
He was when he was with the Chiefs too, if I'm not mistaken. Like the numbers and the metrics and that stuff, they kind of like Andrew Wiley.
I think it was just the big moments that it happened.
That's fair. That's certainly possible.
Like he gave up sacks in big moments.
Yeah, but the down to down is a little more acceptable.
Yeah.
I can understand that. All right, question 2 from the great Nate Taylor over at The Athletic. Where is Xavier Worthy in his development? I think for our purposes, I would spin this question into what can the Chiefs get out of Xavier Worthy early this season? That's my big question for Xavier Worthy. I think he's going to be useful right away. It might just be as the 9 route guy. It might just be Xavier, you're running straight. Go do it. Hollywood is going to do the other fast guy stuff. You're running straight and you're catching screens, okay? That's your job. Maybe that's all they need from him. If he can do more than that, though, I'm feeling pretty good about where this offense is and where this wide receiver core is. So similar to our K-State conversation, I want to see it with Worthy. I want to see how pro-ready is he right off the rip.
They've always brought the young wide receivers along slowly. They brought Rashee Rice along slowly last year. He wasn't super involved until he showed that he could handle a good chunk of the playbook, and then they increased his involvement as the season went on, and his production increased commensurate with that. Even a guy like Tyreek Hill, who we now know is one of the great wide receivers of his generation, he was not a nailed-on wide receiver one in his first game. That took some time. That took gaining trust.
It took half a season.
Yeah, so I think we could probably expect at least the same with Xavier Worthy. If you're thinking you're going to draft him to your fantasy team, you probably don't want to do that. You pick him up waiver wire week 8, but you probably don't want to draft him to your fantasy team. I don't think he's going to get 50% of the snaps in week 1. If he did, that's a wonderful sign for his development, his natural ability. But it always takes time for young receivers in the Andy Reid offense in any scenario. So it's going to take time for Xavier Worthy. It's not because he's not a special talent. It's just because of the circumstances of who drafted him and how things usually go for young Chiefs receivers.
Out of curiosity, do you know where Xavier Worthy is landing in fantasy football drafts?
I do not, because
we already drafting for fantasy football.
The fantasy football content mills never stop generating.
It's actually, I would respect them a lot more if all their opinions weren't terrible.
Yes,
the fantasy mill. Xavier Worthy is currently, according to Fantasy Pros, ranked 42nd. That's like solidly on a roster, at least. I mean, he's ahead of fellow rookies Rome Odunze and Ladd McConkey. He's ahead of Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cortland Sutton.
That's bonkers.
I would not do that. I only had my dynasty draft where we just took rookies. I did not take Xavier Worthy for what it's worth. Next up from Nate Taylor, who's running back number 3? Deneric Prince probably has the inside track. And the guys who Nate mentions here, Deneric Prince, you've got undrafted rookie Carson Steele, who I like a lot.
Yeah.
I like Carson Steele a lot. Amani Bailey from TCU, Keontae Ingram from where'd Keontae Ingram play? Oh my gosh, this is gonna kill me. Was he
SEC?
I think
USC, sorry.
Yes, USC. Yeah, him and Marshawn Lloyd were at USC this past year. So they've got these undrafted guys. They also have Lewis Reese-Zammit.
Rugby man.
Or Louis Reese-Zammit, whichever one it is.
I think it's Lewis.
I don't know what they're going to do with him. And I understand anyone. I 100% understand anyone who says, dog, he's a rugby player. This is his first year in the league. Come on. Stop trying to put too much on his plate. 1,000,000% respect that opinion. They also gave him guaranteed money. And not like, oh, yeah, here's a $100K workout bonus. No, they gave him millions of guaranteed money. That tells me they expect to do something with him, right?
Yeah.
What did they end up offering Reese-Zammit? What did they give him as
like the dollar value?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Because if I remember correctly, it was multiple. Yeah, 3 years. Okay, it's less money guaranteed than I thought, but they still gave him legitimate guaranteed money, $3 million.
Yeah, more than a camp invite, right? More than a let's see what you can do. This is we really want you in the fold. We want to outbid anyone else who might just give you a camp invite. We think you can play.
They also didn't protect him by the International Pathway Program's distinction that would give him the ability to be kept on the
as an inactive player.
As an inactive player and not be poached off the practice squad.
No, that's a fair point. It's I don't know what that's going to look like. And if we're talking, who's running back 3? I mean, what's the big deal?
Those are champagne problems.
If Pacheco gets hurt, things look a lot different for your run game because your number 2 running back is Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I think you're finding somebody if he gets hurt.
I think Mahomes is throwing the ball 60 times if
that too.
Pacheco gets hurt.
All right, number 4. What is the depth at linebacker looking like? You've got 3 starters, right? You got Nick Bolton. Duh, he's your signal caller. You got Drew Tranquil. You got Leo Chanel, who was maybe the best defensive player in the Super Bowl. Incredible game for Leo Chanel.
Trending up, no
question. Yes, arrow is up. Who's after them?
Cam Jones, Cole Christensen, Jack Cochran.
Yeah, I think it is those 3. And while it's not maybe a awe-inspiring group of backup linebackers, I think it's a trustworthy group. I think it's a group that's been around, that has some experience. With Cam Jones, you have some upside and certainly some special teams utility. You're not as deep in the sense that if Nick Bolton goes down, you can't turn to a Drew Tranquill. Like, that's not next man up. Now he's one of the guys that's just up. So you're not as deep probably as you have been, but Cochran's been around for 3 seasons now, and he hasn't played a ton, but he's played his share. And I think they were really pleased with Jones's potential in training camp last year, and I think has a chance to, at the very least, again, be a special teams weapon for them. Again, these are champagne problems. Who's linebacker for? In a league where you maybe play, on a lot of snaps, you'll play one linebacker.
That's true.
Like, how much does it matter who linebacker 4 is?
Chiefs play a lot of dime personnel, almost as much dime personnel as anybody else in the league. When you're going to go with 6 defensive backs, 3 corners, 3 safeties, you still need a pass rush, and the Chiefs don't go with the 3-man front all that often under Steve Spagnuolo. So if you've got 6 in the defensive backfield and 4 up front, you get 11 on the field. That only leaves 1 linebacker. So maybe depth isn't quite as important in base for this Chiefs team. Last one we've got here from Nate Taylor at The Athletic, his 5 training camp questions. How and where are Joe Thuney and Charles Omenihu? The specifics here.
How? I'm glad somebody's asking how they are.
Yeah.
A major boost for the Chiefs would be if Thuney, this projected starting left guard, and Omenihu, a starting caliber defensive end, don't have to start the season on the PUP list as part of their respective rehabs. Following minicamp, Reed said he believes that Thuney, that's Andy Reid, said he believes Joe Thuney, who's dealing with a pectoral injury he suffered in the playoffs last year, should be available for the start of the regular season. That's huge. That is really, really big if you don't have to start Wanye Morris at a position he's never played and start him at guard, or start Hunter Norzad as a rookie at guard, and you can go with an all-pro instead. Omenihu, he's dealing with his torn ACL recovery. He injured that in the AFC Championship game. He said he wants to return by the start of the regular season, and posted a video on Twitter of him deadlifting 225 pounds. I don't think he is going to be back week 1. That would be a really, really fast turnaround for Charles Omenihu. If you can get him back week 6, week 8, like, is that a fair place to want him back? But he got him back last year.
Yeah, that'd be a win. Yeah, that's exactly right. You were able to integrate him back into the lineup after he missed the first 6 weeks via suspension last year. So, yeah, you get him back week 6, week 8, he should be able to slide right in and produce. That would be fantastic. I mean, you're still talking at that point a 9-10 month recovery. That's fantastic.
Huge opportunity for Felix Anudike-Uzomah.
Oh yeah,
huge. As edge 3, and in some of those NASCAR packages, he'll be on the field along with Dana and along with Chris Jones and George Karlaftis and all those guys. Huge opportunity. This is a chance for him after what was effectively a redshirt year last year to really take a step forward. Speaking of the defensive line, really quickly. This is from Pro Football Focus, okay? They're doing their offseason listicles right now. Sam Monson, who's like the only guy left at PFF who you've ever heard of, he ranked every defensive line in the NFL, okay? Number 1, he's got the Jets. All right. Number 2, the 49ers. Okay. Eagles 3, Lions 4. I don't know about that. Stop talking about Marcus Davenport like a plus player. Number 5, Cleveland. Okay, yeah. Cleveland's front's pretty good.
Really good.
Where do you think the Chiefs landed?
All right. I haven't looked. I nailed it last time.
You did.
Yeah, you did.
Let's see if I can do it again. I'm going to say that the Kansas City Chiefs ranked 12th.
A little too optimistic for you.
Yeah.
PFF's got them at 14th. Chris Jones is arguably the best interior defender in football now that Aaron Donald is retired, and the Chiefs kept him in town this offseason. He leads all defensive tackles and pressures over the last 3 years. George Karlaftis improved in year 2 and was solid on the edge. I think better than solid. While Charles Omenihu is something of a question mark given his torn ACL. If he can come back fully healthy, this is a group that could improve on this ranking. I think this is too low for the Chiefs.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think the perception of the Chiefs defensive line is affected by the fact their best pass rusher is not an edge guy.
Fair. That's fair.
I think when we think about the Chiefs, because when you think about defensive lines, you think about edge rushers. You think about guys who make an impact rushing the passer. And so instinctively, you think about edge rushers. And the Chiefs' best edge rusher is George Karlaftis, who I think is a very good player, had 10.5 sacks last year, but he's not a guy who's top of mind when you think about the star pass rushers in the league. But Chris Jones is.
Yep.
He's best interior pass rusher in the league. And I think that affects how we think about the Chiefs' like defensive line, is that it is built from the inside out to rush the passer in a way that most teams will build outside in.
I love deep defensive lines. That is one of my favorite ways to build a roster in the NFL, is to have deep defensive lines. And the Chiefs, it's very Jim Schwartzy of them. They've got so many different guys. With Amenahu healthy, they've got 4 edge rushers who, and assuming Andrew DK Uzama takes a step forward, still to be seen, but with Karlaftis and Dana, let's not forget Mike Dana, who was really good last year and is back for peanuts. You've got Karlaftis, Dana, healthy Amenahu eventually, King Felix, Malik Herring is still around. He's your 5th guy. I like that group plenty. I don't know that they're top 5, but I'd have them closer to 10 than to 15.
I agree with your depth part. You know what number I don't agree with on here? Number 7.
Number 7, he has...
Or excuse me, 6.
I'm sorry, number 6. The Dallas Cowboys. Oh, is that because all of the Cowboys defensive linemen from last year are now Commanders?
Yes, and you need depth.
They've got nothing.
They have their 2 stars, and that's it. They have Micah Parsons, they have DeMarcus Lawrence, and then they're hoping to see growth from their second-year nose tackle, Maze Smith.
Which would be great.
Hoping.
Yeah, that's all hope. Compared
who's
to
behind them? Who's gonna?
Right.
They gotta rotate guys. You're not gonna be on the field for every single play.
And compare that to the Chiefs, who Andrew DK Uzama is a question mark, but all your depth guys at defensive tackle have played before. All of your edges, other than Felix, have played and been successful before. I'm with you. That's a strange ranking. Can you guess who the worst is?
The worst defensive line?
Yeah.
Is it Arizona?
It is Arizona. And you know what?
I'm good at this.
I really can't blame them. I like Arizona's offense going into this year. I think they could be a lot of fun. That defense might be pretty gross. They don't have a whole lot of talent defensively. The Broncos are second.
I was going to ask him to guess who is 31.
Man, honestly, that might be a little low for Denver. Like, I like John Franklin Myers.
I do too.
I like Baron Browning and Nick Benito and Jonathan Cooper. Like, I don't think it's a great defensive line. I don't think it's second worst in the league. I think there's a little bit of like fast guy pass rush upside with those guys at least. Like, I don't think you want to be 3rd and 13 against the Broncos.
No, I would agree. I would put them like low 20s.
I put them above Minnesota, Carolina pretty comfortably.
Yes, I definitely agree with that as well. Either or, over under. That's coming up next. Also, later this hour, the Lewis Toyota High School Whiparound with Rick Peterson. That's all coming up on this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio, this is 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzynski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis with you. Trenton Kraxner across the glass today. The second round of the NBA draft is underway from ESPN's New York studio. And Spencer, the eagle eye next to me here in studio, noticed Johnny Furphy not in the building. I wouldn't be either.
I would have gone
At least
home.
I don't think. They didn't pan to everybody, but I did see an empty table. So I could be wrong.
I figure they would have put him on since he's been their top listed prospect for the last 20 picks.
That makes me think that he's not there.
Hasn't gone yet. Jonathan Mogbo from San Francisco.
Huge
center,
modern baseball fan.
first pick of the second round to Toronto. Utah has taken Duke's Kyle Filipowski. The Bucks took another G League guy.
What are they doing? This is the thing that we have breaking news. We'll get to that in a second. That's the thing about the NBA draft that confuses me. The Bucks are trying to win. They're old. Like Giannis is not young anymore.
No,
Damian Lillard is not young.
Definitely not young anymore. Yeah.
Chris Middleton is not young. They have an old core and Doc Rivers as their head coach. Wouldn't you think you would want guys who can help you sooner?
Win now? Yeah.
As opposed to dudes who are, again, literally too skinny to even get on the floor? Bizarre. Really, really bizarre. We do have either or over under to get to. Some breaking news. We'll touch on this more in headlines today. We have a home for Arthur Kaluma.
Hook him.
Staying in the Big 12. Or
No,
wait,
he's
no,
not.
No.
He's going to the SEC.
He's going to the SEC. Texas. That
Jar.
Put her in the SEC jar. Yeah, man. I wish him luck. Rodney Terry stinks, man.
I don't think Rodney Terry is a very good coach. No.
Good luck. They have the weirdest collection of pieces this year.
Yeah, I think he's a very Texas wing, and I mean that in a positive and a negative.
Yeah. Good luck to him. We'll talk more about that coming up a little bit later on in the show today.
I still think like Kaluma, there's some potential upside there, but at the same time, last year the highs they were real. There were some highs for Kaluma at K-State, but there were also games where it looked like he was going to go nuts and they wouldn't do anything for the final 35 minutes. And then there were games where I thought, man, if Arthur Kaluma is a good player, why doesn't he play good more often?
Yes.
And then the way he sleepwalked through the NIT game, that's kind of why I think most people assumed he wasn't coming back in any circumstance to K-State. So, like, I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's a good player. I think that he could maybe be a better player. I don't know if he'll get to that better player. And I don't think Rodney Terry's the coach to bring it out of him.
Agree with every single point you just made there. Speaking of drafts, sticking with that topic, it's either or over under time here on 580 Sports Talk. Either or. If you were a draft prospect, this is probably more slanted to the NFL because those guys make decisions. If you get a green room invite, you always go in the NBA. But if you were a draft prospect in one of those sports and you thought you had a chance to be drafted in the first round, maybe you're not the number one overall guy who everyone knows is going, but you expect to be picked early. Would you go to the green room and be at the draft, or would you have a party at home?
I'd have a party at home with my friends.
I'd have a party at home and get to enjoy it with more of my people.
Yeah.
I don't need to shake Adam Silver or Roger Goodell's hand. I don't need that. I just rather chill, keep it low key with my people.
I think I probably agree. I feel like it'd be cool to have that moment, like you get to have the spotlight on you. You walk out in front of everyone. I feel like that'd be a kind of a fun rush. But yeah, I mean, you want to be with your family. You want to be with your friends, the people who were there with you the whole time. I'd probably lean
I feel
toward
like
doing
the
it at
best
home.
part would be you're sitting there on the couch watching and you get a phone call and all your friends are like, shh.
I mean, they pick up your phone and it says spam likely.
Those are my favorite stories. There's always one. I don't remember who it was for Green Bay. It was either this year or last year. They got a call and they didn't pick it up because Green Bay, Wisconsin. What? And they're like, oh, wait a minute.
Wait, there's the team there.
Oh, shoot.
They have uniforms and everything.
People know them. All right, Dan, what you got for either or over under?
All right, this is an either or. If you were taken to a room with a television tonight and told you had two options, but you had to watch them start to finish all the way through. Your first option, your favorite baseball team losing a game in utterly humiliating fashion. I'm talking like 21-1. I'm talking like your pitching staff walks 13 guys. I'm talking like your defense makes 5 errors behind all of your pitchers. Just a tedious 3+ hour slog of a baseball game that your team has no chance. You have 7 in the first. You're getting your brains beaten in. And you have to watch every second of your favorite baseball team getting their brains beat in. And on the other channel is tonight's presidential debate. Which one are you choosing to watch?
I'd rather watch baseball.
Yeah,
I'd rather watch
sports
ping
politics.
pong. I would rather watch someone like sunning their butt cheeks on TV in HD. I would rather watch like a snuff film. There is no amount of money you could pay me to watch that debate.
I would rather watch on repeat for as long as the debate is that chick saying "Hawk Tua" for however long that debate goes.
3+ hours.
Then
Of Hawk
watch
Tua.
that debate.
Yeah, it's
No chance.
I would rather watch that bad baseball game with Stephen A. Smith and Chris Russo on the play-by-play than watch the presidential debate.
Honestly agree.
So you're talking about 2018 to 2023 Kansas State Royals baseball.
Yes. Yes. Like, remember when the Rockies lost a game 25-1 to the Angels last year? That game. Like, it would just make me I will rewatch that game.
Really quickly, Spencer, do you have one for us today?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
Either or Johnny Furphy or Kevin McCullough Jr. making their NBA debut first.
Furf.
Yeah, because I think Furphy will get a guarantee. I think he'll get a roster spot, and I think McCullough might be G League bound.
I think so too.
Given the way the draft is shaking out, I wouldn't have said that before the draft, but the way the draft is shaking out, that's kind of what I'm feeling.
If Furphy was drafted in the first round, that would not have been my either or over under. But the fact that he slipped,
no, that's fair.
Has me
that
questioning it.
Hey, real quick, I would like to welcome a new viewer to our YouTube stream. Our pal Nikola from Serbia has jumped
Serbia
into the YouTube comments. What is your take on European basketball? Have you heard about Partizan Belgrade? Dante Exum played for them last year. Nikola, thank you so much for watching the show via the 580 Sports Talk YouTube. I have not heard of that program.
That's pretty. I think that's a pretty famous one as European clubs go. I want to say they were a pretty big deal back before the Yugoslavian split. They were also a pretty huge deal. They had I want to say Vlade Divac played for them. Maybe Drazen Petrovic played for them.
Okay,
like I want to say that
they're a big deal.
That's the team you're talking about when you're talking about Partizan Belgrade.
I don't know that I like the players who got drafted yesterday in the NBA draft, but all the best players in the NBA now come from Europe, so it's pretty damn strong.
I can tell you, Nikola, as a Denver Nuggets fan, my favorite person in the world who is not my wife or my newborn son is also a Nikola from Serbia.
Love that. Thank you all for checking out the YouTube stream today. Go subscribe if you haven't already.
Number one show in Serbia.
That's right. We're going to put that on advertising now. We have to get to a break. We'll be joined by Rick Peterson next on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline is the one, the only, the Hall of Famer Rick Peterson from TopSports.news. He covers all of our local programs and Washburn University here in Topeka and Shawnee County. Go follow him on Twitter at Peterson_Rick. And of course, go check out his phenomenal work covering our local teams at TopSports.news. Pistol, how was the banquet last night over at Washburn?
I thought it went very well. Always relieved when I can say that.
Let's start with the Hall of Famers. We'll get to the high school award winners here in just a moment. How were the Hall of Fame inductions? Did anyone do as good of a job as you did last year, sir?
Probably all of them, but Bob Benoit, the story he told, and we know each other very well. It never story about he was really, really struggling to make it on the pro tour. He decided that's it. I think he was in the Ohio River, pulled over, got in his trunk, all his bowling balls over the side into the river, and decided he was done. And obviously he wasn't done. He came back and became the first TBA bowler to bowl a perfect game on national TV in the final. So that was a great story, and of course getting Nick and Kelsey to go in together, Nick and Kelsey Stringer to go in together. That was very awesome.
So that was obviously, it's such a high point to get to see all those Topeka and Shawnee County greats. And Bob Benoit's a great guy. I've gotten to talk to him and get to know him a little bit over the course of time. Very, very happy for everyone who went in yesterday. How about some of the high school award winners? We talked last week, Pistol, about the ones who were maybe the hardest to vote for. How was the turnout last night? And what was it like giving away some of those awards to some very deserving athletes?
Well, the turnout was great. And it's one of those things where going into like the last couple of weeks, you're thinking, oh, gosh, we're not going to have as we usually have, blah, blah, blah. And then without a doubt, it always seems to come at the end. And we had another great crowd. I do want to give a shout out. We have 6 of our nominees are in the Shrine Bowl. And 5 of them were able to get a break from the Shrine Bowl camp and come to the banquet. Practiced at Ottawa. The moms drove them over, and they were able to participate in the banquet. And then some of the moms drove them back. So I really appreciate that. And what that shows to me is it means something to these kids.
Rick Peterson at TopSports.news is our guest. This is the Lewis Toyota High School Whiparound here on 580 Sports Talk. We talk to Pistol every week at this time on 580 Sports Talk to get all of the latest information on Shawnee County High School sports and Washburn University athletics. You can check it out at TopSports.news with Pistol and the staff. Speaking of one of those Shrine Bowlers, Finn Dunshee named the Male Athlete of the Year from Hayden, and Siemens Talon Stahlbomber named the Female Athlete of the Year. I want to start with Finn Dunshee, who has apparently changed his mind about continuing his athletic career. So this accomplishment may just be the start of things for the outstanding speedster from Hayden.
Yeah, he was all ready to just go to school at the University of Dallas. And then all of a sudden, I think not all of a sudden, but after the state track meet, when he turned in such a great performance, 3 first, second, led the team to a second place team finish. He started thinking, gosh, maybe I'm not. But now he's going to visit TCU next week, and the recruiting season's pretty much done. He's going to try to get his foot in the door as a walk-on, and earn a scholarship down the way.
Talon Stahlbomber is going to go play volleyball at Johnson County Community College. She had about as good a year as you can have as an individual athlete in team sports, a state championship in volleyball, a state championship in girls basketball, all league, school records set in all of those sports as well. Tremendous senior year, crowning achievement for somebody who's had just a great multi-sport athletic career there at Seaman.
Yeah, the 2 state titles you mentioned, and then went to the state quarterfinals in soccer. So, and she was, got all league recognition in that too. So, yeah, you guys get tired of me saying that, but I love multi-sport athletes, and both Finn and Talon just continue to show their expertise in more than one sport.
There were some ties last night, and that's not new to the process of selecting the seasonal athletes of the year. I've been part of the selection committee in past years where there's just no separating two athletes. But was this a year that stood out to you as far as there were more ties maybe than we've had before, where there were just more collections of athletes where there's just no separating the accomplishments of athlete A from the accomplishments of athlete B, and it wouldn't be right to pick one over the other?
You just hit it right on the head. It wouldn't be right. And that's exactly what I felt. And no, we've never had 3 co-winners before, but there was so many that you could have picked, and some of them that weren't picked as that could had a legitimate chance to be picked. And I just always err on the side, Bill. Thank goodness for Bill, but I'd rather have Bill, order a couple more trophies than leave out a deserving kid.
Do you feel like, Pistol, when all was said and done and all the dust settled, that all the deserving winners were the ones who indeed were honored? And I don't mean that to disrespect anyone, but it is so hard. Just like Dan, I've been a part of this before. I know how hard it is for you guys who are putting this all together. Did it feel, even with ties and making sure as many athletes get nominated and included as possible, did it feel in the end like, yeah, this is how it's supposed to be?
Well, yes, to an extent. But Brendan, they're always in. I've done a ton of all-state and all-city and all-county and all those type of teams. No matter how many you name, no matter how much work you do on it, and all that, you always walk away thinking, gosh, I wish I could have got this person, that person. So you're always going to have that in the back of your head. But I think we did the best we could. And the great thing about the banquet last night is you're honoring all of them. You got them up in front of the crowd, and all that. So at least they're all getting something. And we just try to honor as many as possible.
I don't know, Pistol. Have you really done that many all-city, all-county, all-states in your career? I mean, it must have only been a few.
Yeah, God, how much would that be? That makes me feel even older than usual. But yeah, no, probably going back to 1980.
Wow. So, yeah, that's just a year. 1980 was 10 years ago, Pistol. That's not that long.
Yeah, I wish.
We're talking to Rick Peterson from TopSports.news. That's the Lewis Toyota High School Whiparound here on 580 Sports Talk. Go find Pistol's phenomenal work, plus all sorts of recaps from last night's Shawnee County Sports Award banquet over at TopSports.news. We will have football this weekend, Pistol, down in Emporia, the Shrine Bowl. First things first, will you be making the trip down the Turnpike?
Yes, I'm certainly planning to. Right now I'm still dealing with storm damage, but I have every intention of being there Saturday night.
Well, I hope everything is good at home, and we're excited to see you down there at Welch Stadium coming up on Saturday. We, of course, will have the radio broadcast emanating from our home here in Topeka. A fun group of local athletes who are going to be participating this year, and pretty cool, both from in the city, in the county, and also from in our general area, that some players who are going on to play at major programs, Kansas State, Illinois, major programs, are going to be participating this year. That's something I think the game has lost in recent years, and I'm glad we're going to have that this weekend.
And I give a shout out to K-State. I think K-State has like 4 signees, if I remember right, in that game. And Cal Barta's one of them from Seaman. And he said that they encourage them to play, that they don't, just allow them to play. They encourage them to play because they know what a great cause it is. And, they just feel like it's good for their kids. And I appreciate that because we went through an era a few years ago where a bunch of the D1s didn't play. So it's good to see them back in this game.
One member of the coaching staff for the East team is from the capital city as well, Steve Bueller, who previously...
Jason Swift as well. There's 2 of them.
Excuse me, yes, 2, because Swifty's the 5A coach for the East as well. I know Steve was the head coach back in 2020, the COVID Shrine Bowl. Have you gotten to talk to those 2 about how fired up they are?
Yeah, and I was over there. I went over to Ottawa on Sunday and talked to everybody, and yeah, I think they really like this East team. Both Swifty and Bueller are helping with the defense, and they got some studs. I mean, I was just watching. So obviously I know some of them just by reputation, and then of course I know a lot of them in the area that I've covered. And I think they're going to have a really good defensive unit for this game.
Pistol, the West has won 4 of the last 5 Shrine Bowls, with the one in that segment that they did not win being the 10-10 tie 2 years ago. What I'm saying is it's been a while since the East has pulled out a victory, but I look at this East roster on paper for the Shrine Bowl. It is particularly loaded, it feels like to me. So do you think this is the year the East gets off the schneid and takes it?
Well, I certainly think they have that opportunity. And West is starting to get a little bit of a gap in the series, in the series standings. But yeah, I'm just like you, Dan. I look at that roster and I think, boy, stud, and it's just all from the smaller schools like Linden all the way up to the big schools. And I was impressed when I was over there.
Pistol, do you think, because I know we've talked about this before, that part of the reason why the East has not had a whole lot of success recently is because there are more opportunities to do some of these all-star games in Kansas City, whereas maybe at least to some kids, to some programs, it means a little bit more in the western part of the state?
Yeah, I think it does mean a lot in the western part of the state. And yes, there was a time where it was hard to get a bunch of the really good Kansas City area kids in, but they're some of the best ones, this year. And I'm hoping that's changing. I'm hoping that people just realize not only what a great cause this is, but what a great game this is. They don't have to go in campus as early as they used to. So you're basically giving up 1 week and for a great, great experience.
We're excited for it. We'll have the broadcast, Dan on the play-by-play, yours truly on the color commentary. Spencer and Greg Akagi will be on the sideline for the Shrine Bowl coming up on Saturday. Previewing that, recapping last night's Shawnee County Sports Awards banquet as well. The one and only Rick Peterson of TopSports.news joining us here for the Lewis Toyota High School Whiparound via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Go check out Pistol's work, all of it at TopSports.news, and make sure you're following him on Twitter as well at Peterson_Rick. Pistol, as always, thank you for the time. We will see you this weekend.
Look forward to it.
That's Rick Peterson from TopSports.news, the Hall of Famer, Rick Peterson from TopSports.news. He did give a great speech last year.
I'm sure he did.
It was tremendous.
I'm sorry I missed it.
Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk today, we will get to the Big 12 basketball schedules. We know who KU and K-State will be playing at home, on the road, and also both of those coming up this season. We've got today's What Is Wrong With You, and additionally, College Football 25. When it comes out next month, we know who the best offenses are going to be.
And defenses.
Did they get them right? We'll debate next on 580 Sports Talk, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. halfway home on a Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Thanks for hanging out with us today. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. Across the table from me is Dan Lucero. To my left is Spencer Dupuis. Across the glass, Trenton Craxner, our summer intern, whole crew with you here today. We're on with you until 6 o'clock. We've got a little 580 Sports Talk overtime coming up today. That'll be at the bottom of the 6 o'clock hour. Hear back some of the greatest hits from today. Well, I just re-air Dan's Hawk Tua joke from yesterday on repeat.
In its entirety.
I might just do that entire thing. We will get to a little college football here, college basketball here momentarily. We've also got What Is Wrong With You today, and we'll talk some college football a little bit later on in the hour. Your texts are welcome to the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. From construction sites to renovations and from the farm to the garage, Top City Metal Supply understands the value of precision and cost efficiency. No more wasted materials and no more wasted money, just metal cut to the exact size you need. Top City Metal Supply is located on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field. You're also welcome to join us on our YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube is where you can go and find us. A note from the NBA draft. We do know Johnny Furphy is going to Indiana. That is where he is headed. He was officially drafted by the Spurs. That pick is being traded with the Pacers. Johnny Furphy is going to Indiana. Honestly, either one of those teams is a great fit for Furphy.
So I want to know the background of this. Like, obviously, are you on the phone? Like, hey, we're going to trade you this. This is if you draft this guy.
I think so. I think
you have to tell them to draft whoever you want them to draft.
I think it's essentially just a big network of handshake deals. Maybe you know better than me, but that's my understanding of it.
That's the best I've ever been able to understand it. Yeah.
Like, hey, we're going to make this trade. You've got to take our guy, though. I believe there's a story out there, a fairly famous pick, if I remember correctly. I don't remember all the details, but where they had a trade in place and then they reneged on it and drafted someone else and said, yeah, we're not trading.
That's crazy.
I'm trying to remember who that was. I don't think it was all that long ago. But yeah, I don't get it. I just don't understand. Similarly to why, and Dan, maybe you have a better perspective on this. I don't know why it took so long for baseball draft picks to be tradable. Do you have a good explanation for that?
I do not have a good explanation for why that was the case. But yeah, you can. You can't. It's complicated. Like, you can't trade the draft rights on draft day. You're not going to see the Guardians are trading up to number 7 with I guess they have the number 1 pick this year.
Yeah,
they're trading down with the Royals. The Royals are trading this year's first and next year's first and a future 3rd rounder for the first pick. What you can do though is you can trade the player less than a year after he's been picked, which was not always the case.
Weird.
Yeah, and you can
unnecessary.
You can trade supplemental picks now, I think it is, but you cannot do pick swaps like you can do in the other drafts. And I don't know why that's the case.
That's so bizarre. I really just do not get it.
What's in the Constitution, I suppose.
I guess. Well, we have amendments. We can change.
Well, it's just I always think it's weird for teams hey, in baseball specifically, hey, the 2 instances. Hey, we're going to send you some cash. Just I want this player, this prospect. Maybe he's not that promising to your team, but I want that player. I'll send you a major leaguer that we don't like anymore. That's at the end of his one. He's got half a season left. Some cash. Give me some cash.
Usually the cash offsets the contract.
Or give me a player to be named later. Like what?
Yeah, the cash usually offsets the contract, or you're paying down somebody else's deal, or you're just buying the player essentially instead of saying, think of it as, instead of saying, player X has been sold to the Royals for $500,000. It's just a trade for cash considerations. As far as players to be named later, that's always a very funny concept. There have been instances where players were traded for themselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Harry Cheedy got traded for himself.
That's so funny.
I just think it's funny looking at the people that have been traded that have gone on to become all-stars or Hall of Famers.
Dirk was drafted by the Bucks, I believe.
But in the MLB specifically.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
What?
Yeah,
David Ortiz.
The Dirk Nowitzki, that pick was traded for the Robert Traylor pick. Tractor Trailer.
Kobe too, right?
Yes, Kobe was drafted by the Hornets, and 13th pick traded even up for Vlade Divac.
Trey Turner was
the Nuggets had the 10th pick in that draft.
Who'd they take?
They traded down with the Pacers. I think they traded for Mark Jackson,
Okay.
And the Pacers ended up with the 10th pick. They took Eric Dampier. The Nuggets ended up with the 23rd pick, I think it was. Took some Greek wingding who never even made it overseas.
Wingding.
There's a reason the Nuggets were ass from 1996 to 2003 when they drafted Melo.
All right. This from college basketball today. The Big 12 announced its schedule pairings for the season. With these leagues being so freaking big, now they have to designate who is playing who, home and away, just home and just away. I'm not going to read all the matchups for every single team, but we do have the ones for both KU and K-State. KU basketball, again, this is going to have home and away with UCF, Colorado, Houston, Iowa State, Kansas State. Only at home against Arizona, ASU, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, West Virginia, and only away against Baylor, BYU, Cincinnati, TCU, Utah. I'll tell you right now, only playing Arizona once and getting them at home, that's a nice break.
It's a break, but it's also a bummer.
Oh, huge bummer. For Kansas State, they're home and away. Arizona State, Cincinnati, Iowa State, KU, Oklahoma State. They only play at home, also against Arizona. That's nice. Colorado, Houston, Texas Tech, West Virginia. They will go away to Baylor, BYU, UCF, TCU, and Utah. So a lot of similarities between those two schedules, which honestly makes sense because they kept KU, K-State, and Iowa State all playing home and away against each other.
They did, and that's good. And I'm glad that you have home and homes for KU, K-State, Iowa State all intermingled. Like, that's good. That should be happening. I got to say, I want to start a Kansas State schedule.
Yes.
I love it for them. And I love it for them because you do not have to go to the McHale Center, and you do not have to go to the Fertitta Center, and you do not have to go to Lubbock and the United Supermarkets Arena, and you do not have to go to the WVU Coliseum.
Yeah.
That's actually incredible.
Instead, you're going to Utah, who will be one of the worst teams in the league. You're going to TCU, which is not exactly an intimidating venue. You're going to UCF, be a bottom half team. You're going to BYU, which tough place to play, but K-State almost won there last year.
Yep.
And
with a worse team than they have this year.
And you go to Baylor. So, like, it's not all peaches and cream, but that is not really a bad away-only slate. And if your other road games are Arizona State, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, and then Iowa State and KU, like, that is an extremely manageable road schedule for Kansas State.
Yes, that is certainly true. The only negative about both KU and K-State playing at Baylor away only, we have to watch that terrible camera angle at the new Farrell Center.
With the sky cam.
I hope you love Vertigo, buddy. That's terrible. No, it's a nice setup for Kansas State. And to get Arizona at home, that is really nice. To get Houston, I mean, Houston's going to be really good, but to get Houston at home, that's a big deal. And you're right. The USA, the United Supermarkets Arena in Lubbock, tough place. West Virginia, tough to play, even when they're bad. I like that schedule for the most part. The only thing I would change about KU's, the only thing is I would rather have played Oklahoma State home and away and UCF just won. But other than that, Houston, I mean, that's the prime matchup of the year, right? Is Houston KU. Like that's the most star-studded matchup, probably.
I would say those are, in my mind, the two best rosters in the Big 12. So, yes.
So you get them home and away. That's going to be a lot of fun. K-State, have to have that. Iowa State, in my mind, you have to have that. Colorado, Big 8, sweet. Bring them back in. I love that. I would replace UCF with Oklahoma State. That's the only change I would make, because I think KU's away only and home only schedule breaks really nicely.
Yeah, the away only games for KU being, again, Utah, who's going to stink. Cincinnati, who I think they'll be pretty good. TCU will be all right. BYU will be all right. Those are all middle, solidly tier 2 teams in the conference.
No one KU can't beat.
Yeah, and then Baylor, who, I mean, they won in Waco, not this past season, but the season before. Like, they've got recent success in Waco. They don't have to go to the McHale Center. They don't have to go to Lubbock. They don't have to go to Morgantown, which, again, West Virginia, I don't think will be very good. Texas Tech, I think will be tough, but you would much rather, if you're only playing those teams once, you'd much rather get them in your barn.
Who are the teams that have to come to both Kansas schools? Because as we know, when K-State's good,
West Virginia,
it's rocking at Bramlage. West Virginia has to come to both KU and
Arizona.
Dude, West Virginia's schedule is rough. At Baylor, Colorado, Kansas, Kansas State, Texas Tech. Yikes. Not Darian DeVries, welcome to the Big 12.
Yeah, literally.
Tough. Who are the other ones you said along with West Virginia and Arizona?
West Virginia, Texas Tech, Arizona are the ones that come to both schools and do not host KU or K-State.
That's tough. You don't want to play both of those places.
So that means they'll probably play back to back, like a
do like Saturday,
and
Tuesday, Saturday,
and
Monday. Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting note from the press release from the Big 12 that opponents were selected, and this goes for the women's schedule too, based on a combination of geography, historical results, and a poll of the coaches to best balance the schedule in terms of travel and competitiveness. So they didn't like pick this out of a hat. There's a formula here. There's a method to this. And it's a method that, yes, involves geography, which I think that's sensible to maybe limit the number of long trips for Arizona out east or UCF back west. Historical results, and then a preseason coaches poll saying, hey, let's balance the schedule out that way, try to make it a little bit more equitable the best we can. That's fascinating to me.
It is. You can't get it done perfectly. I mean, it's just not something that you can do without any sort of flaw. Like Cincinnati and West Virginia are going to play every year. That's going to be home and road every single year because they're the only two teams anywhere close to one another. UCF is screwed no matter what. Colorado, I would have thought, based on that, what you just explained there, Dan, I would have thought they would have ended up getting Utah for home and away. I thought that would have made sense. Instead, Colorado and UCF got to go face each other. That is a long trip to go from Boulder to Orlando. That is quite a trip. That is interesting, though. I think that's probably for the best, but also it brings you back to what we've talked about so often and joked about, that there's going to be 4 or 2 or 3, whatever, major super mega conferences, and everybody's going to be in all these leagues, all the power teams. But you know what? For scheduling purposes, for rivalry purposes, maybe we'll break them into regions, and then you'll play your region and a couple of other schools. Oh, you mean like conferences, how they've been for a century? That sort of is, like, I'm joking about it, but that's sort of what that scheduling process feels like to me.
You mentioned Colorado. It's really reasonable travel-wise. UCF is the furthest they have to travel. They don't have to go to West Virginia. They don't have to go to Cincinnati. Both of those games are home games. Colorado kind of got, I mean, they might be the worst team in the Big 12.
Yeah.
But like travel-wise, that's a pretty reasonable draw for them. Going back to KU, the furthest they got to go to UCF, and they go out to Cincinnati. But that's really only one like long trip for KU.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. I would say, just looking at the schedules right now, I think the worst draw in terms of who you don't get a return game from, the teams you only play away, I think the worst team is West Virginia. I think that's the worst schedule.
I would agree too.
They have to play Baylor, Colorado, KU, K-State, Texas Tech, all on the road. That stinks. That's an ugly, ugly schedule. Oklahoma State's not great, having to go to Baylor, Kansas, and BYU. BYU is going to be fascinating this year. They are adding a lot of talent. A lot of talent. They have so much money. They have so much money they are pumping into the NIL for the BYU programs. I wish the one bad thing, well, it's not the only bad thing, but the biggest bad thing with the Big 12 expanding is the end of the round robin. It was so unique for power conferences, and it was so special to get to play everybody. A true champion.
Yes, the league championship mattered. And I think last year, even though they would never say it out loud, I think it mattered less. I think it mattered less last season without the round robin.
Shoot, Bill Self said it.
It'll matter less this year.
I agree completely, because it's not fair to be honest. And the SEC has been lopsided, or the ACC has been lopsided. We're not talking about JUCO basketball with your conferences. We're talking about the best conference in the country.
Damn straight.
I miss that. I miss it in football too. That's my biggest pet peeve.
Yeah,
I think
it's nice and clean when everybody plays everybody.
Yeah,
and you don't have to argue or look at the schedule at the end of the year. It's all about, you played everybody. Yeah, you might have a tougher home or road schedule in football, but in basketball, when it was home and home with everybody, you had a pretty good idea that the champion at the end of it was a deserving champion, because they'd gone down the same route as everybody else, and they'd done it better. While
we're talking basketball here, why don't we just get to the Arthur Kaluma headline from earlier? We'll get to it now. We told you earlier on last hour, Arthur Kaluma is headed to Texas. So he's out of the Big 12. A lot of confusion about that. He is not in the Big 12 anymore. He is going to Texas.
Well, technically, at this very moment, they're still in the Big 12.
That's true. They're in the Big 12 for another 3 days.
Yeah.
I guess
till Monday.
Yeah.
When it becomes official.
Noon, I think, on Monday, it becomes official. Yes. They got about 4 days left of being Big 12 members. I think if K-State had brought him back, I would understand it. I would say, no, I get why you're doing that. Try to keep a little continuity. The upside is certainly high. I totally understand it. But I don't think anyone from K-State is going to complain given what the roster looks like this year. Just the talent level is so far and away better. Yeah. Your final spot, before we knew that Coleman Hawkins was committing, we talked to Fitz about this, Spencer. We asked, what are they going to do with that last spot if it doesn't end up being Coleman Hawkins? Would the door still be open for Arthur Kaluma? And Fitz said, I mean, maybe. It could be. I haven't heard anything about that. He's kind of fallen off the face of the earth, but it's possible. I don't think any K-State fan anywhere, and I mean, you've covered K-State very closely for quite a long time. I don't think any K-State fan is going to miss him, especially given what they have coming in.
I thought the longer that it went on, the less he was coming back.
That's fair. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I the way the season ended, like, it would have been hard to get the taste out of everyone's mouth with Kaluma's performance against Iowa in the NIT. And like, I know it's the NIT. It's not the not the big dance. And sometimes guys just don't bring it the way they would have brought it if it would have been round one of the NCAA tournament. But Kaluma very obviously sleepwalked through that entire basketball game. He played it at 1/4 speed. Like, you're listening to a podcast at half speed. That was Kaluma playing in that game. And so that would have been a hard taste to erase, I think, from the mouths of a lot of K-State fans who felt like, that was, if that's what it was going to be, then, maybe all parties involved are better off apart. But Kaluma did seem to have a good relationship with Jerome Tang and his teammates and seemed to like Kansas State. And there were some moments where he looked like he could be the best player on the court. He looked like he could be an NBA guy. I think he's had a lot of people last 2 years tell him he's going to be an NBA guy. And then he gets to the draft process and all of a sudden, no, man, you're actually not. You're not there yet.
Right.
And maybe this opportunity for Kaluma's sake, strictly for his sake, the fact that I think he went to K-State expecting to only be there 1 year and be back in the draft process this year.
I agree.
For that to not happen might be something that is very motivating in a positive way for Arthur Kaluma, and really maybe he really brings it down in Austin next year. But I do think that even like beyond his athletic gifts, which he's got a great body for the position that he plays.
Good skill set.
Yeah, so he's got some skills. He can get to the rim. He's improved as a shooter for sure. He's still not an elite shooter, but he's much improved. There's still another level, clearly, that he has to get to if he wants to really play in the National Basketball Association. I don't know that Rodney Terry is the coach to get that out of him. I really don't.
He's not. I'm going to tell you that right now. He's not. We saw that this year. They had all that talent. Oh, my God. Rodney Terry building a super team. Yeah, how'd that work out for him? Nah, he ain't that guy.
Yeah.
He ain't that dude, brother. Real quick, on the NBA draft, which is still going on. We're halfway through the second round. Which of these programs has had more people drafted in the NBA draft this year? Reigning national champion UConn or Colorado?
It's Colorado.
Yeah.
KJ Simpson just got drafted.
Who has that? Which of these programs has had more players drafted? Kentucky or Colorado?
It's still Colorado.
And finally, which of these programs has had more players drafted to this year in the draft? Duke or Colorado?
Man, Tad Boyle really messed up not getting that team out of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. Barely getting them into it at all.
Yeah, you could argue
How
they
in the
shouldn't have
world?
been.
Speaking of the NBA draft, did you see what Bob Meyer said on ESPN about 20 minutes ago?
I did see this. Tell us what he said.
Bronny James agent Rich Paul is calling teams not named Lakers or the Suns and saying, don't draft Bronny or else he's playing in Australia. This Ari Mirov posted, "This is the NBA is so interesting. This wouldn't fly in the NFL."
No, it would not. NFL teams.
What? It wouldn't fly me. Eli Manning? Anyone? Does anybody remember Eli Manning? Does anybody remember John Elway?
Yeah, but you know those guys were going to play in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, maybe it wouldn't fly with a prospect the caliber of Bronny James. This might be the better way to say it.
Right. Like,
But no, this has absolutely happened in the NFL.
Like if Hunter Norzad, I'm sorry, Hunter, but if Hunter Norzad's agent called up and said, yo, my client is going to the Chiefs or he's going to go play in Canada, every team would say,
All right.
Cool.
Sick.
Get ready to learn poutine, buddy.
Yeah, go enjoy the Great White North. See ya. Have fun playing with the Argos. I'm sure the boatmen will love you. Like that, they wouldn't do something like that. It's crazy, though. Player movement in the NBA is truly, truly wild. What is wrong with you is coming up next on the other side of this break. Then we'll talk some college football later on this hour. This is 580 Sports Talk live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Let's pick a daily winner in What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. So far this week, our winner, we found them yesterday, Mountain Roundup, a woman who is accused of spiking her husband's Mountain Dew with Roundup weed killer, facing first-degree domestic assault and armed criminal action charges.
Somehow not murder charges.
Yeah, I don't know how that's
Attempted
possible.
murder.
Somehow, this came about because she was upset at his lack of appreciation for her throwing him a 50th birthday party. You know what I would do in her position? Silent treatment. I might not leave the light on for him. Might just say, hey, you hurt my feelings. I probably wouldn't try to kill him.
Maybe not talk to him for a day, make him sleep on the couch.
Right.
Yeah, the couch treatment.
Yeah.
I'll never do this again because you clearly don't care. Not, oh, you know what? I'm going to give you poison.
Definitely lots of ways to be passive aggressive about it. Instead, she was aggressive.
This is terrible. Such a bad story. The more I voted against it yesterday for our final, the more I've thought about it, though, I think this one's got stay in power. I really do. The two newest members of the crew have our What Is Wrong With You stories. Trenton, let's do you first today. What's your What Is Wrong With You for us on this Thursday afternoon?
Well, this was originally found on TikTok. I saw this video of the actual. I'll just get into the story. But I found it on TikTok. I looked it up online to see if there was a story out about it, and I finally found one yesterday. So, a Richlands, Virginia steroid dad assaults wrestling referee over bad call.
Steroid dad.
And that's
Who's that guy? Oh, it's Steroid Dad.
That's what the internet has nicknamed this guy. Actual name, Joshua Shane Hammond, an American father from Richlands, Virginia, has completely became the latest example of a grown man making a fool out of themselves over lack of emotional control after attacking a referee officiating his son during a wrestling tournament. And his son's like maybe 9 or 10 years old.
Oh, my God.
Hammond, dubbed Steroid Dad by the internet, completely lost his cool watching his son compete. And once he was unhappy with a call from the referee, he decided to assault him. He came up behind the referee and shoved him from behind. The result was pandemonium as the match was broken up by other referees, parents, and other adults present to protect both the referee who was shoved and their child in the contest who also happened to be pushed over during the sequence of unfortunate events. Not the Steroid Dad's kid, but his opponent was luckily not injured too bad.
Thank God.
A Virginia man has got himself into internet infamy and possibly legal jeopardy after his decision to assault a referee who was just doing his job, officiating a kid's wrestling match. The man's Steroid Dad, Joshua Shane Hammond, has jumped into Internet Hall of Fame, the bad section, after his actions during a wrestling tournament in North Carolina. Hammond's son was locked in a tough encounter with another kid who frankly appeared to be kicking Hammond Jr.'s behind, and that probably contributed to the immense frustration Daddy was feeling. As the fight went on, Hammond Jr., in a desperate attempt to escape a disadvantageous position, started engaging in illegal moves, at least according to the official in charge of the contest, who made this known in a TikTok video that has gone insanely viral, garnering over 11 million views. The referee, known as Speed Turtle on TikTok, is simply not a high school wrestling official with a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He also happens to be an attorney.
What a life for that guy.
He's an attorney?
Yes,
The Honorable Speed Turtle.
he's a jiu-jitsu guy. He wrestled, he coached, wrestling stuff. And he says in one of the videos, he said, you can see here in the bottom wrestler, Hammond Jr. is grabbing the top wrestler's right toe with his left hand. So he's putting his knee in an awkward position. He's bending it to the side. There's a rule that I can call that's illegal. Taking any limb out of its normal range of motion. I'm in a very good position. I can see his knee in a strange position, he explained in the video. According to the referee, he spotted this illegal move, blew his whistle to warn little Hammond against the illegal activities. However, despite the whistle, Hammond Jr., who most definitely is his father's son, continued to apply pressure to the limb. The referee then comes on the mat to issue a warning, and that's when all went downhill. In an instant, Shane Hammond, the father, completely went bonkers, rushing over the canvas and shoving the unaware referee from behind. The shove pushed the referee into the other kid who had been kicking Hammond's son pretty good, and only by a stroke of luck, neither got seriously injured in the altercation.
We have to put this up. If you're watching on YouTube, we have a picture from this video. We have to post this.
Yeah.
This is bananas, this picture. Give me one moment, and I'm going to post it for us. So this is Steroid Dad. If you're watching on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube stream, we'll try to illustrate it for you as best as we can. He comes in and just like he's committing pass interference, totally shoves the referee. This is wild.
Man, he got the camo shorts.
Yeah.
He's wearing Crocs, or are those just slides?
No.
They look Crocish. Man, camo shorts and Crocs combo. That's somebody I would be keeping an eye on just in general, I think.
Holy smokes. Steroid Dad is so funny.
Yeah.
Imagine being Steroid Dad.
So
That's either like a huge compliment to that guy, like, hey, these pythons are all natural. Or he's thinking, man, how did they know?
Yeah, both parents get kicked out, and their poor kid, just left with his parents. Probably an immense embarrassment. They didn't even finish the match, but comments on the video flamed the family over the horrendous behavior. Looks like Roy's rage. His parents seem lovely. You guys, I'm so glad you pressed charges. This dad needs jail time, definitely criminal charges. And if the kid continues in sports, the dad should be no longer welcome to the show.
Did you guys ever know a parent who got banned from Little League or Pop Warner or anything?
Yeah.
I did not. I never knew. Like, I think that the youth sports culture has spiraled downhill over time as it's gotten more competitive and more money is being spent. And like it's more like pressure to little Jimmy better get his college scholarship. Otherwise, I don't know how I'm going to afford college.
Yeah.
Like there's more of this. The worst I ever had when I was a kid was like you had the parent that was really shrill. Like they were just like loud. You could hear them from 3 fields over during baseball. Or they just kept yelling the same thing over and over again. Like I played second grade rec basketball. We had one kid on the team. Their mom just kept yelling, rebound, the whole entire game. Just like that too. Rebound.
Oh my gosh.
I think the most interesting tidbit is the last sentence, which was thrown in regarding his wife, the steroid dad's wife, Mandy Donham. And a simple Google search on her reveals that she defrauded the U.S. government of COVID relief funds.
No one of those.
But we will take care of her story
She's
another
one of
day, another
those.
time.
This
Is what it says.
This is extremely American family.
He's absolutely on steroids. That right there made me think, he's on the juice. He's on the cream and the clear.
Oh yeah.
Trenton, thank you. That's a tremendous story. Holy smokes.
I don't know how I can get past that one. This is just a stupidity story that I've. We're going back to Florida. My new favorite news source in Florida, WFLA.com.
They've got some good ones.
Yeah, they do. A Florida man was arrested after he broke into his ex-girlfriend's home, smashing her fish tank and then flushing the fish down the toilet, according to an arrest report.
No. Boo. This is borderline, man. With no death is rule 1.
It's not
Kill
human
a
death.
fish?
Not
Well,
human death.
we can assume that the fish probably has not survived very long after being flushed.
Yeah,
Didn't
we don't
say
know
death.
once he disappeared from
we don't
sight,
know. He's just not around anymore. On May 4th, Lee County deputies responded to a Cape Coral home regarding a battery incident. The victim, who lived at the home, told officers that Brett Austin Dale, 29, broke into the house through a window at 2:30 a.m. and attacked her. According to the affidavit, Dale threw a picture frame at her and demanded she tell him where his firearm was. Dale then pushed her into a closet door, causing her to fall, began knocking everything off the kitchen counter and other items, including the TV, thermostat, 2 ceiling fans, dishwasher, and other items.
Was he also on steroids?
Potentially. The report said Dow smashed the victim's
with Doll.
Doll smashed the victim's $300 beta fish tank containing her fish Bean.
Oh, do we have to naming the fish? We're personifying the fish.
The victim
Makes it worse.
told officials that she heard Doll flush the toilet and didn't see her fish after that. Dale then grabbed her phone and took off from the house. As he was leaving, he kicked and shattered her vehicle's headlight and smashed one of the car windows before he left in his friend's Jaguar. Cape Coral police said Dahl caused nearly $3,370 in damage and, quote, unnecessarily killed an animal where he deliberately and maliciously took the life of the victim's beta fish. Dahl was attacked later that morning.
Arrested, not attacked.
Dahl
A lot of attacking happening.
was arrested later that morning and was taken to Lee County Jail. He was charged with battery, domestic violence, grand theft, criminal mischief, property damage, tampering with a victim, and animal cruelty. Court records show he had a court date on June 10th, but remains in custody.
I'm willing to say it. Under the jail. This is an under the jail story.
Like if you'll treat animals like of any kind like that, like what you'll do to people is probably fairly similar.
Yeah.
Yes. No, that's a big fact. Obviously here.
So it's a enraging story. I cannot in good conscience vote it as today's winner because I am uncomfortable with how close it comes to violating rule number 1. Poor Bean.
Yeah, R.I.P. Bean.
Man, I wish we didn't know the fish's name. They really didn't have to include that detail.
All right, so
It makes the story so much worse.
I'm here with Steroid Dad. I'm going to vote Steroid Dad today. Is that everyone else in agreement?
Yeah, we're Steroid Dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does Steroid Dad beat Mountain Roundup?
So we have an important text from the 785 to get you here on the Top City Mail Supply text line. Regarding the Roundup story, this texter from the 785 says, a person would have to drink more than a gallon of it to cause death. It may not change your votes, but thought you might like to know that.
Okay, that is valuable.
It is.
But how many, is a gallon at once or like a gallon over time?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
how much,
like if I hit like half a gallon of Roundup today,
like if she
And
gave him
half a
just
gallon in
under
a
a
week.
gallon.
Because she poisoned all the cans, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't just the one.
Yeah.
that would change why she was not that might be why she wasn't charged with attempted murder. Maybe it was only a little bit of Roundup.
That's probably
Just-
true. That's a good point.
Just wanted him to, crap his brains out or never want to drink Mountain Dew again. Deprive him of that pleasure in life.
Man.
All she had to do was go say sleep on the couch. But she did that.
That story's crazy.
But it doesn't involve Steroid Dad and Speed Turtle.
Yeah, the triumvirate of Steroid Dad, Speed Turtle being the lawyer / referee / TikToker, as well as the fact that the wife / mom involved also might be a felon.
Yeah, amazing that the kid would then think he could cheat at wrestling.
Shocking. I might go with that one. I might vote steroid dad today.
Yeah, I'm kind of
I
leaning.
guess.
I'm leaning towards steroid dad as well.
Trenton, that story's unbelievable. I'm going to think about Speed Turtle all day. That is not going to leave my brain anytime soon. That is our new winner. Do we do Speed Turtle or Steroid Dad?
Steroid dad.
All right, that's the winner.
Steroid Dad.
Steroid Dad is
Versus
the name of the winner.
Speed Turtle.
Versus Speed Turtle. Here in What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk. Up next, we'll get to some college football here on 580 Sports Talk on 580 WIBW, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio.
.445 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Spencer, Trenton with you. Brendan will be back with us in a bit. College Football 25 coming out for the video game system of your choice, provided it is a next-gen video game system and not a PC.
I was going to say,
Or,
not really your choice.
Yeah, I guess not your choice. Like if you got like a Nintendo 64 and you're hoping to crank out the College Football 25, if you still rock the Dreamcast
or a PS4.
If you got a PS4.
Like I have at my parents' house.
Yeah, you're probably a little disappointed. But we greatly appreciate that this is Rankings Week showcase for College Football 25 because they are releasing some of the information about how the players and teams and stadiums are going to be ranked or rated on the upcoming video game. And today
we're only 3 weeks out from release.
Yes.
So kind of got to get a lot of stuff out.
Keenly aware. July 19th, July 16th, if you pre-order and you can get it 3 days early. July 19th for those who don't want to pay $100 for a video game. If I were going to do that, it would be this one. But no, I think I can wait for July 19th. And realistically speaking, as the father of a newborn, it may be past July 19th when I get to
I was about to
really
say, by the time
get
you
my
get-
hands dirty into this one.
Yeah, by the time you get to turn on
It might be college football 26 the next time I get to play. But anyway, the offensive and defensive power rankings were released by the video game folks today. The top 25 offenses and the top 25 defenses in the video game.
Again, these rankings are subject to change.
Yes, of course. That's a very important disclaimer. So
at the very right corner bottom.
So we don't get too upset here. Number one offense in the game. Actually, it's a tie at the top. Georgia and Oregon both have 94 rated offenses, and Alabama and Texas have 91 rated offenses. Then 5 teams have offenses that are rated 89. They are Ohio State, LSU, Miami, Missouri, and Colorado. This is where I stop and note that the ranking on a video game is very dependent on the ranking of the players involved. And I am certain that both Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter are going to get a very nice ranking or rating, individual player rating for Colorado. I don't know how that's going to offset the fact that their offensive line is going to be a bunch of dudes in the 70s. But, yeah, apparently Colorado, top 10 offense in the country. Yeah, I'm a little skeptical about that. Mizzou at top 10 offense. Brady Cook's back. Luther Burden is back. Luther Burden will be one of the highest rated wide receivers on the game. Like I could see that. Miami's got a bunch of pieces back. Ohio State, fascinating. Like I think Ohio State's going to have a lot better offense than Colorado, personally, because I do think they have some guys who can block.
Yeah,
like that helps. And like as an NFL prospect, do I think Shedeur Sanders outrates Will Howard? Yeah, maybe. Like that's one thing. But as a college player, I might take Will Howard over Shedeur Sanders. I might.
Yeah.
So those are the offenses that are ranked 89 overall. Then there are a group of offenses that are ranked 87 overall. Among them, the Kansas Jayhawks. Man, tie for 10th, if you will, with Clemson, Utah, Penn State, Ole Miss, Arizona, and North Carolina State. Kansas, a top 10-ish offense in college football. Obviously, again, we're talking about video game ratings here. You can assume that Jalen Daniels is going to have a pretty nice rating, that Devin Neal is going to have a pretty nice rating. I could see Neal being rated like 90 plus as a running back.
Yeah.
Like on a 100 scale. Jalen Daniels probably going to be in the high 80s at minimum. I think the wide receivers should all get pretty good ratings. Like, you know, Brendan and I would give Luke Grimm like a 112. Like, this is a very pro Luke Grimm program.
Is this going to be, I wonder if this is going to be like a weekly, bi-weekly thing that they do throughout the season.
Well, they're doing to update the ratings. That would be pretty typical of a modern sports video game to update the ratings as things go on.
Yeah.
They're going to add.
Because it says subject to change, so it makes me think that there'll be multiple throughout the season.
That is probably what that means. Rounding out the top 25, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Memphis, SMU, UCF with 85 rated offenses, and Florida State, Oklahoma, Virginia Tech, USC with 83 rated offenses. So if you hone in on just the Big 12, Colorado, Utah, Kansas, Arizona, and UCF, the 5 best offenses in the Big 12. I can hear the hollers of dissent from to our west. And like, I don't disagree. Like, I think this is maybe a little bit disrespectful to Kansas State to not include them in this conversation.
Yeah, I would say so, but they're going to be included in another conversation. And also Avery Johnson, biggest question mark, right? Like, who is he going to be?
Like, what his rating is going to be? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Like, you would assume DJ Giddens will have a nice rating. You might assume that Dylan Edwards, speed, is going to have a nice speed rating. Graduate a lot of offensive linemen. So you got some unproven offensive linemen. No Ben Sinnott. Like,
unproven tight end.
Like, a lot of optimism about K-State's offense, and I think a lot of it is justified, but a lot of it is predicated upon not like established returning production, just improvement at quarterback for a player with a high ceiling, improvement at wide receiver with some players with high ceilings. Like, those things are kind of what you're betting on when you're betting on K-State. Whereas with Kansas, you've got a lot of established production back, not just Devin Neal, all the wide receivers, most of the tight ends, and like the healthy Jalen Daniels games. There's been more of those the last 2 years than there have been Avery Johnson starts. So a little bit more to that is established, and that's how video game ratings work. Like, that's what we're dealing with here. The top 10 defenses. Ohio State has the best defense on the game, 96 overall. That's right. The Ohio State defense last seen getting shredded to pieces by J.J. McCarthy in the Big House. Best defense in college football. Georgia at a 94, Oregon, Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Michigan at 90 overall and a tie for third. Then Texas, Penn State, Utah, Florida State, Oklahoma, Iowa, all 88s overall, tied for eighth. Virginia Tech, Wisconsin, USC, Auburn, ranked 86s overall. LSU, Texas A&M, Louisville, Oklahoma State, North Carolina, Kansas State, Florida, and Colorado, rounding out the top 25. 84 ranking on defense. Colorado getting an 84 on defense is the most preposterous thing I've ever heard of.
It's a lie.
Like
That's what it is. It's a lie.
On offense, Brendan's back. Hi, Brendan. On offense, like you understand, like they're going to have players on offense who are like really well rated, like Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, and like Hunter's going to get a good defensive rating too. I'm sure he'll be a very high rated defensive player on the game. Who else on that defense is going to get a good rating? Shiloh Sanders?
Probably. If anyone, probably him.
Also, I wonder how they're going to label Hunter.
Well, they got two-way players in the game, like they've always had.
Oh yeah, that's true. I forgot it was college
two-way
football.
players in the game. So, narrowing it down again to the Big 12, the highest rated defenses. Once again, it's Utah at the top of the list, just like for offenses. Then it's Colorado, Oklahoma State, Kansas State. Those are the four Big 12 teams in the top 25.
I mean, I can't believe KU's not on that list.
Right?
No, that's fair. That's fair enough. Since I just stepped in, I apologize to make you go over it again. Do you feel the KU offensive rating is fair? I do.
Like they're going to have a lot of highly rated players because they have a lot of established production returning. Like established production from the skill positions. And Kansas State doesn't have so much of that. And that's why Kansas has a good video game rating on release day and Kansas State doesn't.
It's going to be fun to play with KU because you always want to pick a team that's fun to play with.
Yes,
right?
like they'll have a cool playbook.
Yeah.
And they'll have, like, obviously some sick players. And they'll have a mobile quarterback, which you never want to play with a statue at quarterback.
Exactly.
No.
This is always such a bummer.
No one's playing drop back game in a video game.
Right.
Actual, like, outside of the video game realm here, I am curious. Penn State, they're ranked 12th for the College Football 25 video game in terms of best offense. Other than Andy Kotelnicki and... Well, they usually finish third in the Big Ten. What makes you believe that Penn State will have a top 15 offense?
They got some awesome running backs.
Yeah.
And at quarterback, did I mention they have some awesome running backs?
What?
I would, like, if I were in charge of the video game rating, I would give Drew Aller like a 64. I think he stinks.
I understand why he had all that hype. I do. Well, man, we watched him. Like we watched him play and go through a whole season. He didn't have a chance against those good teams. He stunk. No. If Andy Kotelnicki can get him to look like a pro, okay, fine.
Maybe
but
that's just like if they're going to have such a sick playbook.
Good luck. Good luck. Who would you rather have as your quarterback, Drew Aller or Jalen Daniels?
Jalen Daniels. Jalen Daniels with one arm.
So 2022, Jalen Daniels.
Jalen Daniels with a bum arm, legitimately, I think would be a more accurate passer. If he were throwing with his arm in a sling, he would be more accurate than Drew Aller.
You mentioned all the good running backs Penn State has. That team should not have been as boring as they were.
They were so boring.
There was no need for a team with that much talent to be that boring last season. The same can actually be said for Clemson.
Because the quarterback is stinko.
Why is Clemson top 10?
Cade Klubnik season.
But he also stunk.
Yeah, he wasn't very good.
He was also bad. I don't understand that one bit, but not my job to come up with these. Is there another rating that's coming out tomorrow, or was it ending today?
No, I think there'll be something Friday. I don't remember what it is.
Yeah, I mean, they've only got a couple
overall
weeks.
Team power rankings tomorrow.
Okay.
More content. Thank you, EA Sports College Football 25.
Very cool. Who's going to be higher, KU or K-State?
KU. It's going to make K-State people mad.
Oh,
KU is going to be higher rated.
I don't necessarily disagree.
Neither of them are in the top 25.
I'd be mad.
Yeah.
That's what will happen.
That's
I
our
will
content.
be mad. Coming up next, we will finish off with the final hour of 580 Sports Talk live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. final hour of 580 Sports Talk on a Thursday afternoon. Welcome back to the show live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. That's Dan Lucero. That's Spencer Dupuis over there. That's Trenton Kraxner. Royals fan numero uno. How are you feeling about tonight's start of the series?
I'm feeling a lot better than if the Royals did not come back yesterday. I guess not last night, but yesterday afternoon.
So you have abandoned it's so over, it's never been more over, and you are on to we're so back.
You know, I had the Stephen A. Smith, Kwame Brown rant pulled up for inspiration for the show today. If the Royals didn't come back, I was fully ready to go on a Stephen A. Smith, Kwame Brown rant about the Royals.
You bona fide scrub. It is an all-time clip. We'll talk some Royals baseball later on this hour as we get you ready for a huge four-gamer at the K between the Royals and the Guardians starting tonight and running throughout the weekend. We also got our 580 Sports Talk headlines to get to coming up here in just a few moments. We will get you a final update on the end of the NBA draft. The Lakers are picking with number 55 out of 58 right now. Think it's going to be Bronny?
It is going to be Bronny.
It's been confirmed?
Yes. Shams reporting it is going to be Bronny.
Wow. Wow. That's something. We'll talk about that. We'll see if Kevin McCullough gets picked. If he doesn't get picked, I figure he'll be one of the first guys to sign a contract.
They're showing the Lakers war room, and a few of the guys are like laughing.
Like fleeced him.
Can you believe we have to do this?
As Bronny James pops up on screen behind them as their number 6 ranked prospect available with 5 picks left. That's really funny.
That's what they're laughing about. They're like, can you believe it's come to this?
So that's coming up here. We will also, again, get you ready for tonight's game for the Royals with Michael Waka on the mound. Your texts are welcome to the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. And you can also find us on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel. Thank you, everyone who's been watching along, listening along, wherever it is, 580 AM, 104.9 FM, 580WIBW.com, or on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel today. First headline for me, why don't we start with the MIAA, shall we? We were talking basketball scheduling earlier. Well, the full football schedule for the MIAA has been officially released. This year's college football scheduling is very weird. In Division I this year, FBS, usually you get one bye week, right? Well, because of the way the calendar works this year, everybody gets 2 bye weeks. So the calendar is all kinds of messed up for the FBS schedule. Division II, normally you don't get a bye week unless you have a game get canceled. This year, because of the way the calendar shakes out and the weekends shake out, everybody is getting an off week. Washburn's is going to be week 2. The Ichabods have made theirs official for a little while now.
Technically week 1.
Yeah,
because they're calling the opening week 0. So,
but that doesn't make sense because everyone plays. Week 0 is always supposed to be like a fill-in thing. Whatever. It's above my pay grade, certainly. Washburn's going to play Emporia State. Turnpike Tussle to lead off the season. That's Thursday night, the final Thursday of the month of August. That'll be Thursday, August 29th. Washburn's then off in week 1, the second week of the season. They'll be at home to face Colorado Mines, non-conference game because no more Lincoln in the league. Also at home to face Pitt State. They will travel to Mo West. Then they will alternate home and away, home against Northwest Missouri State, who has an incredible recruiting class this year, by the way. Like, they're ranked ahead of some FCS programs for their recruiting class. On the road at Fort Hays State, home for Mo Southern. At UCM, they will get Kearney and UCO at home in the second and third last weeks of the season. Then we'll round out the year against the Northeastern State Riverhawks. That'll be down in Tahlequah. This year, with Lincoln gone, you've got some fun matchups you don't normally get. Mostly regional, except for Pitt. Is it this year? Yeah, Pitt is playing Ferris State this year.
Yeah, week 0.
Week 0.
Yeah. And is that Minnesota State Mankato?
It is indeed.
Northwest Missouri State is playing?
Yes, they will play against Mankato. That game will be at home for Northwest. Kearney is going to play at Chadron State this year.
Good for them getting that rivalry back together. That's a big rivalry that's been out of commission for the last decade because they used to be in the RMAC together before Kearney joined the MIAA. Gosh, that was 2013, 14?
I think 13, yeah. I believe. Your other new non-conference opponents, Missouri Southern is going to play Midwestern State out of Texas. I have heard, it's just rumor, that Midwestern State wants to join the MIAA. That would be a trek.
Yeah. You think Fort Smith is a hike?
Yep. Thursday night MIAA hoops, driving from Washburn to Wichita Falls. Yikes. Fort Hays State is also going to host Angelo State out of Texas. UCM plays Drury this year. And how about this? Missouri Western, to end the season, is going to play your fine friends from the banks of the Mississippi, the Quincy Hawks.
Oh, how about that?
They're going to beat them by 90.
Yeah, they're going to beat them severely.
So that is...
UNK's also got, is that Southwest Minnesota State?
It is Southwest Minnesota State. And Emporia is going to play Angelo State as well this year.
Is Pitt State right above Washburn in the picture?
Correct.
So they have 2 bye weeks? They didn't schedule another game?
Yeah, it looks like Pitt State didn't get another, they only got the Ferris State game. They did not.
Yeah.
They didn't keep Northeastern on the schedule, and they never filled the spot in the schedule.
We shared this headline with you months ago when it happened, but Northeastern State, while still a full member of the MIAA, is withdrawing to a non-conference member in football for the next 2 years, essentially to determine, can we still compete in the MIAA in football? So that's technically a non-conference game. If you already had them on the schedule, which everyone did, you could keep it, or you were allowed to replace it with a non-conference game. Pitt apparently has not yet found a second non-conference game, so they only have 10 games on the schedule, which I would not be thrilled about. If I was the Pittsburgh State Gorillas right now, maybe they'll be able to find one more before the season starts. But those are your headlines from the officially released MIAA football schedule. I can tell you that we are, and you're going to have to give me a moment to do some quick math here, but I believe we are 63 days from kickoff, Washburn versus Emporia State. I think 63. I'll check that math.
Be here before
We're not
you know
math
it.
guys.
No, certainly not.
We're sure not. Yeah, it'll be here before you know it. All right, first headline for me, we may as well. We just talked about it, but the NBA draft is coming to a close. There are only 3 picks left in the 2024 NBA draft. Just 58 picks this year. 2 teams forfeiting second-round picks.
Oh, we got breaking news.
You want to break it for us?
Am I missing it?
Kevin McCullough Jr.
Okay, go ahead, guys. I missed it.
Go ahead, Spence.
Kevin McCullough Jr., I believe he's going to the Knicks. I don't know. I'm confused on this graphic.
Yes, so he has been drafted by the Phoenix Suns, and he is going to be traded to the New York Knicks. And if they think he's got a clean bill of health, which maybe, I don't know. If the Knicks think he's got a clean bill of health, I actually love that for New York. He is such a Tibbs player.
Like, they're down to like 8 guys on the roster. Like, there's going to be an opportunity, certainly over the course of 82 games, for him to get some burn. Congratulations to Kevin. It was looking pretty grim there with only 3 picks remaining, whether or not he was going to get to hear his name called. So Kevin McCullough, drafted by technically the Phoenix Suns. That pick is being rerouted to the New York Knicks.
I love how we're not the only people confused, because all these other Jayhawk sites just one in particular just tweeted Kevin McCullough Jr. is headed to the Phoenix Suns.
Well, that pick originally belonged to Denver, and they sent it to Phoenix last night in a trade that was also involved a first-round pick swap, so Denver could move up 6 spots and take Deron Holmes out of Dayton. So originally that was Denver's pick, then it was Phoenix's pick. Now it's the Knicks pick, and
shout out to
Kevin McCullough.
Jordan Gusky. He just tweeted, there's Kevin McCullough Jr. drafted as well, 56 overall, 2nd round.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Just he'll probably quote it in a few minutes once he gets confirmed.
Jordan, who covers KU for the Capital Journal here in town. Poor Kevin McCullough. They showed one highlight of him. They showed that he was first team all Big 12 and then immediately went back to Bronny James on TV.
Because Bronny James was picked before Kevin McCullough Jr. That's the big headline from today's second round, is that LeBron James's son is going to play for LeBron James's team. Probably because LeBron James is the shadow GM of the Los Angeles Lakers. Bronny, the 55th overall pick after just 1 season at USC.
Round 2 is a big day for those of us who love college basketball.
Yes, this is all guys we've actually seen. Like yesterday, it's a bunch of dudes playing for the Croatian Wingdings. Today is hoopers you recognize. Jamal Shed, Harrison Ingram, Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer.
Dudes who get drafted and you go, oh man, he's a dog.
Yeah, like, oh, this guy's gonna be a dude. And then the next thing you know, he's putting up triple doubles in the G League.
Literally Frank Mason.
Tyler Kolek is going to be unbelievable in the G League.
That dude's going to get a 10-year contract every year of his career for a decade.
So, obviously, Bronny's a big headline. Look, the hype is what it is. The story is what it is. I wish him luck, honestly. That's got to be very difficult circumstances.
Yeah.
I think he could be a decent NBA player. I think if the expectation is, Bronny's going to be just like his dad, obviously that's ridiculous. But like Bronny, a star? No, probably not. But like Bronny, a functional like combo guard role player in the NBA who's a smart player, who's an unselfish player, and who like kicks around at the back end of rosters for years. Why not?
A couple things here to note. One, Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN just said on TV, the NBA is full of nepotism. I don't want to hear of it all of a sudden because Bronny's father plays for the Lakers. Nepotism is rampant in this league. Damn. Sheesh, Woj. Also, a comment here from Mark on YouTube says, it's funny, both Jayhawks who got picked also got traded. Has that ever happened before? I don't know.
Yeah, we'd have to call our friends at the Elias Sports Bureau. But we were getting there. There have been 2 Jayhawks selected in the second round of today's NBA draft, with Johnny Furphy taken 35th overall. That was originally the San Antonio pick. It has been rerouted to Indiana. So Johnny Furphy is going to be a Pacer. So both Furphy and McCullough ending up with Eastern Conference teams. Other notable players to hear their names called in the second round today: Duke's Kyle Filipowski, 32nd to Utah. This is the part where I'm going to stop saying which team drafted them because your guess is as good as mine. Tyler Kolek out of Marquette went 34th overall. Oso Ighodaro from Marquette went number 40 overall. KJ Simpson from Colorado. We mentioned Colorado had 3 players drafted in this draft. He goes number 42. I guess that pick is staying with Charlotte. Mentioned Jamal Shed. He went 45th. That pick is Sacramento's, I think. Harrison Ingram, the would have been Jayhawk, who ended up playing at North Carolina after transferring from Stanford last year. Drafted number 48 by the San Antonio Spurs. A couple more UConn Huskies: Tristan Newton, 49th to Indiana. Cam Spencer, 53rd. That was the Knicks pick. It's been traded to Detroit. Still 2 picks remaining in this year's draft. Don't ask me who they belong to. I don't know. In case you missed it last night, Frenchman went 1, 2, and 6 overall in this year's draft. Zachary Riza-Shea, the French wing, went number 1 to the Atlanta Hawks. Alex Sarr, who played last year in Australia, power forward, went number 2 to Washington. Tijan Salaun, that's not even close. He went number 6 to Charlotte. The 3rd overall pick and first American taken, Reed Shepherd out of Kentucky to the Houston Rockets.
Crazy.
Stephon Castle of UConn and Ron Holland of the G League Ignite rounding out the top 5. Castle to San Antonio, Holland to Detroit. Rounding out the top 10, Donovan Clingan out of UConn to Portland at number 7. Rob Dillingham will be a Minnesota Timberwolves. The Spurs took him and will trade him to Minnesota. The point guard from Kentucky went number 8. Zach Edey, number 9 overall to Memphis. Cody Williams from Colorado, number 10 to Utah.
Which team had more players drafted this year, Kansas or Colorado?
The correct answer is Colorado.
Oh, my God. Well, they both got to the same weekend of the tournament this year. Spencer, do you have a headline for us?
Yes. We're going to the NFL, to the courtroom. Actually, the jury in the NFL Sunday ticket trial has ordered the league to pay $96 million in damages to bars and $4.7 billion to fans. If you dig in depth to all this, shout out to our friend Matt Derrick, who we'll have on the show tomorrow to talk all things Chiefs. He says the last 3 paragraphs of this story are key. The judge overseeing the case has the opportunity to disregard the jury and rule in favor of the NFL. If not, the NFL will appear. So this is far from over.
Yeah, I'm going to imagine that is not the full payout that gets sent to consumers, because it's a class action lawsuit, and to bars, restaurants, industries, businesses, what have you. I'm not surprised by this. I also will not be surprised if they totally throw this out and they just overturn it on appeal and say, nope, actually the NFL was right. Sorry, you get nothing. Because arguably the strongest lobbying body in the United States is the NFL.
Yeah.
Which isn't great, if
Clearly,
we're being honest.
They let Roger Goodell lie in front of Congress.
Which lie was this?
So many. He said he had no clue who Barstool Sports was.
That's true. That was among the many.
I wish I could wipe my brain of what Barstool Sports is. I wish I did not know who Dave Portnoy was. My life would be immeasurably better if I did not know who that was.
They put all sorts of Barstool guys on the Boston parade floats. and duck boats when they won the NBA championship last week.
I'm pretty sure Dave Portnoy did a podcast live from there.
Probably did. Now Kevin McCullough's getting some run on TV. They're finally going to show him a little bit. Good for Kevin. I'm glad he got drafted.
Remember when we talked about what we would rather watch, a terrible baseball game or the presidential debate? I'd rather watch presidential debate than listen to Dave Portnoy podcast. Easily. Not even a second thought.
No, I can understand
You've
that.
never seen Miss Peaches, his dog?
Never heard of Miss Peaches. He's at the Save and Mario Brothers.
I'll take dog content. I'll take dog content from anybody.
Dog con.
Next for me from the world of college football, a former K-State coordinator, I think, is going to be one of the most famous guys taking advantage of a new coaching rule in college football. Let me explain. According to multiple sources, including Inside Texas at On3 Sports, Scotty Hazelton, the longtime assistant, former national championship winner at North Dakota State under Chris Kleiman, Chris Kleiman's first defensive coordinator at K-State, most recently was the DC at Michigan State, is now joining Steve Sarkisian's staff. Inside Texas has not confirmed his position, but we understand it to be Gary Patterson's old role of special assistant to the head coach. Hazelton has almost 3 decades of college and pro coaching experience. He's been a DC at his alma mater, Fort Lewis, their D2, Missouri Southern, MIAA, North Dakota State, Nevada, Wyoming, Kansas State, and Michigan State. He was also the DC at NDSU for their first FCS national championship. Here is the significant thing about that. I think Scotty Hazelton's a good DC. I don't know that he's, Wade Phillips. I think he's a good DC, but he is, as far as I know for now, the most high-profile assistant, special assistant, analyst who is going to have the ability to coach on the field and recruit during the season. Because we've talked about this new rule in Division I that you can have an unlimited number of analysts and special assistants and all of that, and they can actually coach. They don't just have to be quote-unquote analysts. And Scotty Hazelton, I think, is going to fill that role for Texas.
Well-traveled for sure, but
yes.
Generally successful wherever he's been. I thought he did a really nice job at Kansas State for the brief time he was there. So,
I thought so. Who followed him?
That
everyone wanted to run out of town on a rail.
No, wasn't it Klanderman who followed him directly?
Maybe it was. Am I thinking of Hazelton that people wanted to get rid of?
I don't think so.
Oh, man. I could have sworn Kleiman had to fire a coordinator.
It was Courtney Messingham, the offensive coordinator.
Offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
Courtney Messingham.
You're thinking of Messingham. Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah,
it was Courtney Messingham.
So his first coordinators were Messingham and Hazelton.
Yeah.
And Hazelton left after 1 year, and they hired Klanderman. And Messingham was who they fired after the 2022 season.
That's right. That's right.
Well, 2021 season. He had Klein for 2 years.
Yeah.
And
because Klein coached in the Texas Bowl against LSU.
Yeah, Klein ran the offense in the Texas Bowl. Yeah.
That worked out pretty well.
It did. Yeah. That was Courtney Messingham.
Okay. No, thank you. I knew someone had gotten canned.
I would prefer not to revisit the Courtney Messingham dialogue. I'm sure that was agonized. Like him and Kleiman are sock tight. That had to be the most agonizing thing that Kleiman's maybe ever done in his life.
I imagine so.
Fire that guy.
Any other headlines for you?
We can do one more. We can do an NBA headline here. According to Sham Charania of lots of outlets, including The Athletic, the Denver Nuggets are closing in on a 4-year, $209 million maximum extension with guard Jamal Murray, who helped the Nuggets win the NBA championship in 2013. Struggled in the playoffs this
2013?
2023. Dad brain. Every mistake I make is dad brain.
That's fair.
You can't, new dad brain. You can't blame anything else but new dad brain. It's certainly not because I'm stupid. Murray struggled.
Well, I wasn't going to go that far.
Murray struggled in the 2024 playoffs, but managed to hit 2-game winners in the Los Angeles Lakers series before injuring his calf and struggling throughout a 7-game loss to the Timberwolves in the semifinal round. He was eligible for a free agency after this coming season, so the 4-year max extension locks him in as part of the Nuggets core for the next 5 years.
I think Jamal Murray's a great player. He's got to stay on the field. He has got to stay healthy.
That has always been his biggest problem, has been availability. He obviously had the knee injury that cost him a full season and 2 playoff runs, and probably cost the Nuggets a ring in the process of that. I think they would have. I think they would have won it all in the year the Suns did, or the Bucks did, 2021, if Murray had not torn up his knee. He was good in spurts last year, and if he hits his potential as a player, he will finally give Nikola Jokic something he has literally never had in his career, a teammate who is an all-star.
That's crazy. Better than Bron? Bron couldn't do that and win a championship.
That's true. People are saying.
I'm saying it. I'll say it.
Also, there's a very funny tweet I just saw pop up on my timeline that says, it's amazing how much Bronny James looks like his grandfather, and there's a picture of Bronny and a picture of Jamal Murray.
Very Nuggets centric,
Yes,
but that is very
that
funny.
came from Nuggets Twitter. I enjoyed it very much.
Spencer, do you want to get to one more here?
Yeah, Randall Cobb and his family are lucky to be alive today after a house fire at their house in Nashville this week. Him and his wife posted, "We are lucky to be alive." She posted on her Instagram story saying that a Tesla charger caught fire in their garage late last night and quickly spread through their home. Quote, "We got out of the house with nothing but clothes on our backs and no shoes on our feet," she wrote. The Cobbs have 3 young sons.
Yes, and I think Mrs. Cobb is pregnant again, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's terrifying. That for me, the first couple of weeks we were in our new house was definitely the one thing that got me like spooked out of nowhere, is just randomly thinking, what if something caught fire?
Yeah.
Terrifying in a new house. Let me tell you, not a very pleasant thing to think about.
Well,
but yeah, this is scary.
It is scary, but I mean, I would assume he has another house in New York. So
I would think so. Although he's a free agent, I think.
He is?
I think Cobby's a free agent.
Yeah, he didn't get re-signed.
No, he not really super surprised by that. I love Randall Cobb. I know he was bad last year, but I love Randall Cobb. I always will love that dude. And his very beautiful family. I'm glad that they are okay. That is scary stuff. That does it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. When we come back, some final thoughts on where Johnny Furphy and Kevin McCullough landed. Plus, we'll preview Royals versus Guardians Game 1. That's coming up after the break here on 580 Sports Talk, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. I was thinking about this, Dan, while you were going through some of the picks today, and you mentioned Harrison Ingram going in the NBA draft. This is 580 Sports Talk, by the way, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. I guess this would probably better be saved for a Random Question Tuesday, but who is the player for any of your favorite teams? It could be any of them, who should have been on your favorite team? There was a trade in place that should have happened but fell through. There were rumors that they were going to sign in free agency, but it fell through. A transfer like Harrison Ingram, but it fell through. Who was that guy for one of your teams?
That is a good one.
Jamar Chase committed to KU for 11 days. Jamar Chase.
That's true. Jamar Chase was committed to Kansas. So was Clayton Tune, I think he's still on the Cardinals roster, but the longtime Houston quarterback. He, at one point, I think it was when they played KU a couple years ago. It must have been in a non-conference game. A bunch of KU fans on Twitter pulled up old tweets from Clayton Tune where he was like, thrilled to be a Jayhawk. Love KU, rock chalk. And he deleted all of them. He deleted all of his tweets to get rid of it. That's a good one.
I got one.
All right.
I don't know how legit it was, but it was reported this week that the Commanders did, in fact, try to trade for Brandon Ayuk.
That's a good one.
Backed off a trade. But I would say Chris Paul to the Wizards for 30 seconds.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
The trade's like, Frank Gore was an Eagle for 8 minutes.
Like, hey, you're going to trade it here to then get traded to here.
That's a good one.
Dumb salary.
All right. I have a great one for this. And local baseball fans may recall this. You guys remember Jermaine Dye?
I do. 2005 World Series MVP Jermaine Dye.
You know how awesome Jermaine Dye was? Two-time All-Star, one of the most underrated players of his era.
He was very good.
Yes.
Played right field for those White Sox.
Two-time All-Star, won a Silver Slugger, won a Gold Glove. In 2001, the Royals were holding one of their patented fire sales. You know, they had that great outfield, Beltran, Damon, and Dye that all came up together, and none of them finished their careers in Kansas City. Very sad. Anyway, on July 25th, the Royals decided they needed a shortstop, and they made a trade with the Colorado Rockies. 1-for-1, Jermaine Dye for Nathan Perez.
That's disrespect.
Had that trade stood, it would be one of the greatest trades in Colorado Rockies history. However, the Rockies were merely a conduit, and Jermaine Dye did not last the day in purple pinstripe. He was flipped to the Oakland Athletics.
Oakland A's, yeah.
For three gentlemen named Todd Belitz, Mario Encarnacion, and Jose Ortiz. Ortiz was a prize. He was supposed to be the second baseman of the future for the Rockies. That future did not last very long. Jose Ortiz, it turned out, couldn't hit a breaking ball or much of anything else. And was out of Major League Baseball by the time he was 25.
My apologies. I did not know that Jermaine Dye had been traded like that. I mean, I know he went from the Royals to the A's to eventually the White Sox. Did he go anywhere after Chicago? You're right. He was a good player.
No, I think he finished with Chicago. I think that was his final stop. But he would have rocked the freaking Casbah at Coors Field. Oh,
yeah,
my God. Him and Larry Walker and Todd Helton in the middle of the lineup.
Yeah, he had a couple 40-double seasons. Had a couple 30. In 2006, he had 44 home runs. Yeah, he was a heck of a player.
Yeah, I cannot explain what former Rockies general manager Dan O'Dowd was thinking there. Certainly the Royals it was a deadline adjacent deal. They were out of contention. Oakland was contending, needed a outfield bat. Dye was awesome down the stretch for Oakland that year.
Yeah.
A player that gets absolutely no mention in the movie Moneyball, just like all the other really good players on the 2002 Oakland A's. It could have just been one throwaway sentence. They could have said, we stand to be pretty decent considering we have an awesome pitching rotation and Miguel Tejada and Eric Chavez and Jermaine Dye. But here's how we're going to contend to win the division. We need Scott Hatteberg.
Let's talk about Scott Hatteberg.
One sentence. And that movie gets 10 times better. Anyway, he was on cable the other day. I watched it. It is still a very good movie.
I got one more.
Okay.
This I don't necessarily think I would have been excited. I mean, he was decently hitting in the 90 games he appeared for the team that almost traded him. But in the Juan Soto deal, it was first reported that Eric Hosmer was coming to the Nationals.
Yeah, no, this is a good one.
And at the time, I was like, decent guy. He's a veteran. I don't know how much he's got left in the tank. Clearly,
it turned
not
out
a lot.
nothing.
Yeah. But at the time, I had reported that as breaking news on my station that I had worked for at the time, and that we aired the Nationals. And I was like, that's pretty good get for a guy that's going to be up in the big leagues right now.
Yeah.
And help you finish the season.
Hosmer's like, nah, man, I want to go. I will go to Washington. Get out of my face.
Y'all
Let me go
paid me.
to Boston instead and hit 244 in 14 games with 4 RBIs.
Man, that's funny. I'd forgotten about that. That's a really good one.
Yeah, nowadays he's a podcast host and responds to all of his haters with the contract details from that free agent deal he signed with San Diego.
How about that? The cup of coffee he had until he was DFA'd on May 19th with the Cubs last year.
I remember it well. He was very bad.
234, 2 homers, 14 RBIs.
By all accounts, he was great with the young guys, and they really liked him, but he stunk. He was very, very bad. The two for me, you mentioned Harrison Ingram. That was a whiff by Bill Self. The other one, and this is pretty well known at this point, there was, before he got traded from the Raiders to the Patriots, there was a trade in place, the framework done for the Green Bay Packers to acquire Randy Moss in a trade. It was The deal was done. You know the centerpiece of the trade?
I do not.
Aaron Rodgers.
I can see
The
why.
Raiders said, we want Aaron Rodgers. And Green Bay said, no.
Let's renegotiate.
And it ended up working out for Green Bay. Won a title, won a lot of games. Randy Moss also won a lot of games. Did not win a title, though.
No, ringless.
No.
Yeah, he had a crap ton of receiving yards in that one season, though.
Did he go 0 for 3 in Super Bowls? 2 with the Patriots and then that one with the 49ers?
Was he with the Patriots both of those Super Bowls, 07 and 11? Was he still in the
I think
Patriots
so.
in 11? I don't think he was.
Was he gone by then?
I think he was gone by then.
All right, we're going to find out. Pro Football
Wasn't that a
Reference.
year he wound up back with Minnesota with Favre?
No, he was retired.
Oh, what?
And then he
Hold on.
returned the next year.
Okay.
Damn, he had. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at targets. Okay, 28 catches, 434 yards for San Francisco. Honestly, for 35 and out of the game for a year, that's not terrible.
No.
With that 2012 49er team. Yeah, his last year in New England, he left the team in 2020, was briefly in Tennessee, and then went back to Minnesota for a cup of coffee.
You mean 2012?
Yeah. Can I? What the hell?
You
Yeah.
said 2020, and I was like, what?
Jeez Louise. Yeah, 2012 was his final year. 2010 was his last year with the Patriots. But yeah, that one, like, it should have happened. Oh, Kobe to the Bulls. That one also, by all accounts, was like done. It was totally set. The Bulls were ready to pull the trigger. And then at the last minute, Kobe said, I'm good. And because he was the one orchestrating it, he had wanted out of LA.
Right.
Things were kind of gruesome before they won their 2 titles.
He wanted to murder Smush Parker and just did not want any part of being a Laker anymore.
I was like, I need to get in the action with Andres Nocioni right now. I need to play with young Ben Gordon right this second. It was done. It was all the Bulls beat reporters for years that deal was done. It all was just hinging on Kobe saying, all right, send it into the league office. And then he changed his mind and stayed in LA. It's fine. I'm fine. It's totally okay. Johnny Furphy, he's going to be an Indianapolis Pacer, or an Indiana Pacer. Excuse me. They play in Indianapolis.
For sure now.
For
We
sure.
know
Yes. That is locked in. I like it. I don't know that he's going to develop defensively, but if you're talking about a wide open offensive team that could use a slasher and shooter, that's all they do. They're really good. And their offense is really good. And they are the only team that gave Boston any trouble in the playoffs this year. I like that for Furphy. I think that's a nice spot for him to grow and develop.
Yeah, not a lot of pressure on him to be good right away, jump into the starting lineup right away. He's going to have a chance to develop at his own pace, and I think he probably needs that. I think if he'd been, like, the comparison was irresistible last year, especially when he started playing really well in January. Like, it kind of looks like what Grady Dick looked like at times for Kansas. But he was that good, he would have gotten the lottery, 1, and 2, KU would have gone a lot farther this season if he had been that guy consistently throughout the season. So like, there's still some growing for his game to do. He's got to be a more consistent shooter. He's got to be more consistent with his effort and energy and skill on the defensive end, but he can get there. That's a well-coached team. They're coming off of a successful season, going to the second round of the playoffs, where they go to the conference finals, so they get beat in the second round.
The Pacers?
No, they went to conference finals.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, it's not, he doesn't have to step in and be anything right away other than just himself. And I think that's always a good fit for a young player going into the league.
Yeah, I like that for Johnny. I think that's a good fit for him. And again, I told you earlier, we saw from Eric Bossi over at 24/7. He had said he thinks Furphy was going to get a huge guarantee. That makes plenty of sense. The other KU player who got drafted, the Phoenix Suns took Kevin McCullough, but he's actually being traded to the New York Knicks. If he is healthy, and that's a big if, and that's the question we had to ask ourselves from pretty much the start of 2024 until the season ended. If he is healthy, he is a great Tom Thibodeau player. A great Tom Thibodeau player. He is not going to be asked to score ever. It is just going to be go lock that dude up. And unlike Marcus Garrett, who I love with my whole heart, Kevin's a pro kind of athlete.
Yeah, I guess the question for him is going to be, can he be a consistent shooter? And the 3-point numbers kind of always wavered with him, but he was always a really good free throw shooter. So, like, generally, you would think if you've got a repeatable enough stroke to make 70, 80% of your free throws, there's a stroke in there that will help you be successful from three. You just got to dial it in a little bit and more often and be more comfortable with the shot. So that'll be the big question. That's probably what will separate him from being like 9th, 10th guy on a roster to being like a steady rotation player.
Rotational guy. Yeah, that makes sense. Real quick, I'll share an anecdote really fast. From one game I was covering at KU, this was 2 seasons ago now. I was sitting next to our guy, CJ Moore, at The Athletic. And CJ's great. I mean, he is so knowledgeable about the game, and he is just so on top of everything. And Kevin McCullough in this game, I don't remember who the opponent was, shot and missed like 6 corner threes. I mean, it just was not working. And by the end of the game, he kept taking them. And CJ was so mad. He was legitimately like, stop passing if he's just sitting in the corner. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It was very, very funny. How many international players did we end up with this year?
A lot.
Yeah.
The last two picks, for accounting's sake, both international players.
Did you see the guy's picture? You were looking over. I can't remember which one he was. It's either the second to last or last guy. His face just like the picture they decided to use was just so weird.
Not very flattering.
Yeah, I was like, why would they use that as their graphic?
Yeah, it's
well,
curious choice.
It's possible that both Ulrich Chomchi and Ariel Huckporty are both like AI generated.
Yeah.
Your final 5 draft picks came from Gonzaga, USC, Kansas, Cameroon, Germany. So we had
the Germany guy then.
Okay, so that's Huckporty. Yeah. So we had Germany, Cameroon, France, Serbia, Sweden, Spain. Let me go see if there were any others. That's 6 different countries that were all represented. Yes, and also USA for AJ Johnson, who did not get a school, did not get his NBL team. He just got USA. That's pretty impressive.
He was in the stands at the time. I always love when the guys pay their own way and they just sit in the stands, wait for their name to be called.
CB did that. Yeah. Christian Brown. He might play for your Nuggets a whole lot this coming year.
If they lose Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in free agency, which it's 50-50-ish, but I would call it more likely than not that he does not return next year. That means starting 2-guard Christian Brown.
Hell yeah. Love that. Get that 3-pointer fixed, and that's a good player.
Is that Parker Brown's brother?
It is.
That's what I thought.
Yes. Parker. To most people around these parts, Parker is Christian's brother.
That is a great bit.
That's very funny. And their youngest brother, Landon, is now at Omaha. Is that where he ended up?
I don't remember.
I think Landon Brown is at Omaha. Yes. Yeah, Nebraska, Omaha.
There you go.
His face is truly just halfway Parker's face, halfway Christian's face. It's very funny. Real quick, as the biggest NBA fan in the room, best pick of the draft.
Best pick of the draft? Man, it might have been Dalton Connect, 17.
That's
in
my
terms
pick.
of the value that you get with a player like that going to the Lakers. But I think Donovan Clingan is going to be a real good pro. So being able to get him at 7 for the Blazers, even though they've got a glut of centers already, they're going to have to do something about, like, none of them are irreplaceable. Like, they can get rid of DeAndre Ayton and not miss him. They can move off of Time Lord Robert Williams and not be a big deal. But I think Donovan Clingan is going to be a very, very good NBA player.
Good defensive player at the very least. I like the Connect pick. You have one word. Feelings about the Wizards after their draft.
Confused.
Fair enough. I don't think you're the only one.
After the trade.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Coming up next, we will get you ready for a 4-game set between the Royals and the Guardians. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Royals versus Guardians coming up this weekend. It starts tonight. Michael Wacha is on the bump for the Royals. Mr. Fozzie Bear himself, Waka Waka, against former Royal Ben Lively, who has been an entirely new pitcher since, well, leaving the Royals like most guys, but especially this year in Cleveland. Real quick, before we get to the analysis here, around the horn. Actually, let's get to this game first. We'll go around the horn in a second here. The funny thing about Michael Wacha, I mean, his numbers don't blow you away, but he has just been so steady for so long that in a big game, I trust him as much as I trust Reagans or Lugo. And that's not a shot at Reagans or Lugo. I trust those guys a ton. But I feel pretty good about Michael Wacha in a big spot. He's been in tons of them in his career. And this, you can say, oh, it's just June as much as you want. This series is huge for the Royals.
Yeah, this is as big a home series as the Royals have played since 2017. There's no question about that. And Wacha should be more stretched out for this outing. Remember, he missed a handful of games because of the broken toe, and he was probably on a pitch count, even though he was pitching very well at Texas in his last outing. They took him out at 74 pitches, 5 innings. I would assume that if all went well this week, he won't be on any kind of a pitch restriction. We know how important it is for Royals pitchers to go 6+. Wacha can give you that. He's gone 6+, 4 straight outings before the outing he broke his toe. So I think that is in him, and I think that they will need that. I'd like to see the Royals again try to jump on Lively early. You need to hit the Cleveland starters because the bullpen has been a tough nut to crack.
All right. What is a successful series? Or if you'd rather answer, what is the requirement from the series? Trenton, I'll start with you because you have the most emotional investment here. What do they need to do? What do you think is going to happen? What can they accomplish in this series in a brief sentence?
Don't be losing going to the 9th inning. That's the first thing. You need at least a split here. You can't lose any ground. And you have your 2 top dogs lined up. You got to at least win those games or take one of them. You got to split at least your bare minimum.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah,
I think
I agree too.
Go ahead.
That I was going to agree. Like the split is, you at least have to get a split in this one.
Jeffrey in the YouTube comment says, huge series for momentum, respect, and confidence. And I think you've hit that, Jeffrey, right on the head.
Yeah.
I think that, and I agree with Paul too, 2-2 needs to be bare minimum, worst case scenario. For the sake of wild card playoff chances, 2-2 is fine.
Yeah.
If you want to be a player in the American League Central, you got to win the series. You got to reel in, like that would be reeling in 2 games in this series. It would be a 2-game swing in the standings. You go from 9 back to 7 back with a whole lot of baseball left to play. You lose 3 out of 4, you're 11 and forget that.
Yeah.
Start instead of scoreboard watching the Guardians, start scoreboard watching the Red Sox and the Astros.
I am with everybody. We are all in agreement here. I think 2-2 is the minimum you need in this series. I think it's doable. Again, I like having Michael Wacha in a big spot because he's been there before, which is really valuable because it's not the playoffs, and the weather certainly doesn't make it feel like the playoffs, but this feels like a very big series, and I like Wacha in a big spot. You've got Reagans on Saturday against a really good pitcher in Tanner Bybee as well for Cleveland, so that's a good matchup. And you get Seth Lugo as well, who might, according to some, might be your Cy Young favorite for this year. So if you can get at least those 2, you're clinging to hope in the AL Central race. You have to get at least 2, though, if you want that.
Yeah.
I think 3 is possible.
Yeah.
I know Cleveland is good. You can look at the stats. You can use the eye test. I know Cleveland is good. They've won 51 games. But there's still nothing that grips me like, oh, man, Cleveland. You got to watch out for Cleveland, dog. They're nasty. Are they? I don't know. I guess.
Do you agree with what Paul says in the YouTube? He says this could be a season-defining series.
I think if it goes really well or really poorly, then yes, it could be. But
I would agree with that.
Either extreme, I would say yes.
I would say it's a goals-defining series. Because if you lose the series, okay, hunt for the wild card. If you win the series, AL Central hunt, that is still on. We have to get to one final commercial break, then we'll wrap up this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk with today's final word. let's wrap it up with our 580 Sports Talk final word. Let's go with Dan Lucero first today.
It's very easy to pile on the Lakers drafting Bronny James 55th overall in the NBA draft. And the circus could very well go very topsy-turvy there for the Lakers. But, man, who the hell cares? Dad gets to play with son. That's very rare in sports history. It's like the Griffeys, the Rainses, and now it's the Jameses. That's super cool.
Yeah.
I think that element of it is worth celebrating. Even if you're not a LeBron fan, even if you think Bronny's going to be a great NBA player, that's fine. That's for another day. Father gets to play with son. That's dope.
Spencer?
Yeah, that is dope. To go a different direction here, Royals, as we just mentioned, kind of an interesting series for them tonight. I think I'm just going to sit back, maybe grab an adult beverage, and watch Michael Walker pitch.
Final word for me. I'm still flabbergasted that Johnny Furphy did not go in the first round, and some of the guys who were picked ahead of him, especially. I think Indiana's a good landing spot for him. I know there's a lot of talk. He should have come back. He left all this money on the table. Some dudes are just ready to go, and I think Johnny Furphy, if he was willing to go, and we knew for so long that he was willing to go, probably just means he was ready. And I think it's a good fit for Kevin McCullough as well. He's got to stay healthy, obviously, after how weird this past year was. But if he is, that's a really nice player for Tom Thibodeau and the New York Knicks. Coming up tomorrow, we will recap Game 1 of the Royals series against the Cleveland Guardians. We'll also get you ready for Game 2 and the rest of the weekend with that series. We, of course, will have Matt Derrick joining us for our Chiefs Insider and a whole lot more to get you ready for the sports weekend. That's coming up tomorrow from 2 until 6. Until then, for Dan Lucero, for Spencer Dupuy, and for Trenton Kraxner, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. Royals pregame begins at 6:30. We've got overtime coming up next on 580 WIBW.